Oh, oh, can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Understand that you're gonna do a presentation
Yes, I want to do a presentation. Uh, I think it's,
about what you're learning at school, right?
yep, yep.
And so
Oh man,
how it ties into how what you do in CC.
yes, sir.
Right.
I think I sent a link for people to join through my personal registrations or something. So like everybody is showing up as Khan now.
Oh shit, that's so funny. Dude, no wonder like I had trouble logging in. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, that's why I was like, wait. I looked at myself, I was like, wait, is that Con or is that me? It's like I was the first one in the call, but it says Con. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Sorry about that, guys. A little bit confusing. I was trying to like extract the link so that I can send for people to, hey, Tina, nice to meet you.
I think it's kind of cute.
Yeah, but now everybody's showing up as Khan.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
funny.
it's kind of endearing.
Yeah. So I have no idea who are those three Khans. Show yourself. What's going on? Oh,
Let's see.
is that now? I see, I see. Okay. That's Roger. It's so funny. It's everybody name is Khan. Right, who's that? Roger. Hey, is that Tyson? Tyson Khan.
Oh, I really enjoyed the dissertation.
Oh
I
yeah. So that's gonna coming up on Tuesday next week. Sneak peek for you guys, but we just do a first round of presentation that's on Tyson. And essentially the topic, if I were to put an angle on it, is like how
exertion.
do we exertion and
The
how to stop
virtue
being
of
lazy.
exertion.
Yeah. How the many varieties of laziness on the path.
Yeah,
La-
I like when he said self-contempt is a kind of a laziness, a form of laziness to like retreat.
or nihilism is a
Yeah,
form of laziness.
yeah.
It's very interesting. Like loss of meanings is a form of laziness. Is that we don't have the heart to
Oh,
continue.
practice. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Hey, I was just saying, hey guys, sorry about that. Everybody's showing up as Khan now. I think Marco was spotting that as well. It's like, what's going on? So if you guys don't mind changing your name a little bit, otherwise it's also cute, I guess.
You don't have to change it. I'm not gonna change it, but I guess you changed it for me. So
I changed it for Frank. Uh, uh, but yeah, so Frank was just talking about Tyson's dissertation,
oh
which
yeah,
will
it was
be,
inspiring.
yeah, it was very inspiring. And I've been working with Tyson's pretty much in the last 6 months to, working on exertion, especially this new dimension about how do we be assertive? How do we have the effort and the energy to be able to walk the path? Because Tyson was drawing from his own personal experience and also the many ways of how laziness can show up.
Khan is asking Khan how to change the name.
You should be able to click on the three dot next to yourself, and that will show up as like has an option to rename. Sorry, guys, that's my bad. I was trying to pull the link, but I didn't know that it's going to be signing in as me. So non-dual con. Yeah, I guess so, right?
I guess
So
so.
yeah, I guess so. Okay, so we have a pretty much stacked show in the house, and some of the mentors are still presenting, rehearsing and like refining their presentation. But essentially, what we want to get here is that in the next 7 days, it's also to count down 7 days left to join the bootcamp. I know many of you guys have submitted your application. We are also in the process of finalizing that. But yeah, this is 7 days to join the bootcamp. The link Frank has put out many times, but you guys can also join that as tinyurl.com/mindtrainingcc. But the point of these 7 days is to showcase the many different ways that we can look at our problem in terms of pursuing awakening and the meditation path. I think with the public practice week, we were able to sit together, share transmission. For some of us, there's been some experience. I think Frank has documents, some people saying that after that, there is a lot of gains in terms of intimacy, the calmness, but it's really just a sneak peek, right?
Yeah, it's not even a tip of the iceberg. Yeah, this guy's just like, oh, just 1 week already changed my life and this and that. I was like, that's not even the beginning of the ice. It's at the tip of the iceberg. So I told him. But it's all fractals, so
Yep. So then today I want to showcase at least what I've been working on my side. Tomorrow, Frank will be reviewing his 2025. Um, uh, we'll walk through the most recent videos with Frank because I think that as you some of you guys have been following Frank for a while, his content has been changing continuously throughout the years. But I think it's making another leap from maybe the so-called more standard non-dual content
not do
out.
talking head.
Yeah. So now is we're gonna see the I was talking with Frank the creativity, the concentration, and the madness that is Frank Yan. So that's tomorrow. On Monday, we'll have John join in and share his Qigong energetic practice, 8 years of body scanning that leads him on the way to anatta realization with CC, and the many trappings that he have had with that. And on Tuesday with Tyson, Wednesday with Adrian about the masculine psychology. On Thursday, we're going to be talking about addiction and desires. How do we cope with these many challenges on this contorted push and pull of desires? And on next Friday, we'll conclude that also together. And not just a presentation, but the point of these gatherings is that we're going to do the thing that we couldn't do in the public practice week, which is spend more time to talk in details in more of these topics. Yeah.
Yeah, this is more like the simulating the discussion space.
Yeah.
Or the public practice week, a little bit more like simulating the transmission. But there's both in each person.
Yes, sir. So without further ado, I'll start the show with my presentation. Let me just make sure that the people on YouTube can also see it. But this is yeah.
Can't wait for another slideshow, man.
So this is modern mindfulness training. I think a lot of times when we think meditation, it falls under this umbrella of mindfulness. I think a lot of people come from these angles. Jace, one of our instructors, also has gone through a rigorous program to be certified mindfulness teacher by Oxford. So there's a lot of these angles of how to, think about what's going on in terms of like this awakening things and the many perspective on that. And why is it so that a lot of times it can be very confusing, it can be very destabilizing, and why it is that something maybe if we remember the first time we come across these kind of topics about meditation, mindfulness, it promises very simple things like boost in mental clarity, mental health increases, well-being stabilize, you feel calmer. But then as we get more serious about awakening, there could even be more destabilization. There could be the dark nights and the confusions and the frustration and the overwhelming cycles of stuff coming up. So it could be a lot of interesting things that is the unwanted side effects of meditation that people that may go unrecognized or unnoticed. And we thought that we are on the right track, but then suddenly we realize that, oh, I've been bypassing the whole time or something like that. So the context of this is that I really started training seriously in meditation after a massive Kundalini explosion at 17 in my last year in high school. And it made life very challenging. At first, it was 2 weeks of intense bliss where there is like different kind of downloads. The energetic channels feels opens up. I remember barely able to sleep because there were just so much things coming through. Even when I was going sleeping, the dream would continue, like just this unfolding. But then it fades. The bliss fades about after the intense rapturous kind of feelings fades about 2 weeks. Life returns to normal. I still have the glow for about another 2 months, but then it started to become very depressive after that. becomes very confusing because I didn't know anything about what was going on. But I knew that meditation has something to do with it. I really thought I was enlightened at that 17. It's like, oh, I guess this is what it feels like. Am I enlightened? Those kind of like consideration. But then when life and the challenge of integration hits again, the Kundalini, even though it was explosive, very blissful, but then it fades. So I started to reach out, and serendipitously, by chance, I stumbled upon meeting Frank 2017 as well. And that was me and him in Taiwan. I was just happened to fly in Taiwan with my parents to hang out in a vacation. And then we landed right next to Frank's gym. It's about like 200 meters away from his, like the neon gym. If you guys used to watch Frank's video in Taiwan, that neon gym. So it was right next to that and reach out. So Frank has been a childhood hero of mine. Because before even the Kundalini stuff, I think the reason the Kundalini dawned for me was I was very, very angsty. Um, I aspired to be artistic, like Frank, but I didn't have any medium to be able to channel that energy. So it just pent up to the point that it exploded. So I met Frank. I talked with him about that. We work out for 1 hour, and then we keep in contact. But after that, I take meditation much more seriously. I did my Vipassana Vanka retreat shortly after. I try to maintain a consistent practice, body scanning. Then I started to, also trying to integrate that with more relational work, trying to show up like, okay, all
Mm.
these kind of spiritual thing is there, but can I also be able to be effective? Because I was 18. I still don't know shit about anything. So I was like, okay, I gotta go to school and finish my college application, trying to still relate with people, even though they were just looking at me like I'm crazy and sometimes, and knowing how to like relate and talk with people. So it was a massive challenge. But throughout that process of about 5 to 6 years, in 2013, 23, I quit my job at a tech startup. It was quite promising. Things was looking great. But I always remember like the Kundalini experience at 17. I was like, there must be something more to that. And even though there was some new experiences with, the different online materials, I remember I joined Sakuru Inner Engineering. I joined a couple of different kind of modalities of training. I also follow Frank, but it never really reached the kind of explosiveness of at 17 when the Kundalini dropped. But this aspiration was still brewing, so I decided to quit everything to try to like really go into that and stack up all the experience in terms of like knowing how to be a project manager, to be coaching in terms of productivity coaching. Because at that time I was a product manager for a habit tracker app to help people be more consistent with their habits and applying cognitive behavioral therapies into the apps and doing research on that. So I did that for a year, and then I reached out to Frank with all that experience. Frank was, I see like, okay, I think my childhood hero now become enlightened. Because I was following Frank since 2014, so that was before Frank was, I think, seriously get into meditation. So in 2020, you guys know about Frank's stories, massive anatta realization, awakening. Then he's starting to integrate for 2 years, and by 2023, end of 2022, I was starting to like send emails to Frank to check whether he wants to partner and build a coaching business to help people to meditate more consistently, help people to stabilize their insights and all these things. Because I know from personal experience, it could be very confusing, destabilizing, and lonely, really lonely. Loneliness was one of my core driving motor in that way. So yeah, uh, Frank said yes after fucking 6 months of me convincing him. Like, hey, yo, are you still there? Let's talk about it. And he's like, no, let's talk about it later. And another 2 months, I reach out again and again and again. And throughout this time, I continued to stack up more meditation retreats. I did a 10 days clear vision retreat where the majority focus is to build energetic channels, unlock third eye, um, and a lot of those kind of esoteric secrets, Atlantean secrets, blah 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 blah. Uh, very cool experience. But when Frank decided to say yes, I decided to drop all of that and to follow Frank's way of, pragmatic Dharma, Michael Taft, Daniel Ingram's mastering core teaching the Buddhas, trying to sit down. And at that moment was it's got kind of bland for me, to be honest, because I was more in the esoteric stuff. But now we're just sitting down and scan your bodies. That's it. But yeah, I follow Frank. So we did that for 6 months. And then the Kundalini shit started to happen again. So I had go through my own tumultuous openings. A lot of things cleared up. It was also at the time that we were practicing TWIM because we was quite inspired by Delson Armstrong and his teachings. So at that time, we were doing that. And I did another retreat, 10 days. And it's the energy and the momentum starting to stack of doing this continuously now in the main focus for 2 years. And at that point, it reached a kind of critical moment when there is a non-dual so-called perceptual shift starting to dawn. And then I started to experience life in a way that, yeah, just go beyond separation in a stable manner. And I was trying to like, oh, would it go away? And it never went away. Like the 360, like, oh, I'm looking at the tree, but the tree look at me. But then once again, it's starting to be destabilizing and starting to be challenging again. So I'm starting to look for more at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, as then starting to look into Vajrayana, starting to look into Dzogchen teachers. I pitched Frank to also look into that with me because I think at that time I was a little bit disillusioned that there is more. Even after the perceptual shift, there's still like many more layers of wisdom that now I'm aware of. So we talked and we started to reach out to Lama Joe's, have a summer retreat with him, two retreats for me, one retreat for Frank, have the direct introduction from that, starting to reading a lot more esoteric stuff. So reconnecting with that. But then it was getting too much. So I was considering closing off Contemplative CrossFit just to focus on study. But then, I tell this story before, but Albert reached out and connect me and Frank to Mei Chang, and then the whole thing shifted. We can go into it later. But then essentially now 2025, we worked with Mei Chang for 1 year and things clicked back. And it was really like right at the moment of me deciding to go back to school to really study and also to actually train not just one time or two times with a teacher, but continuously with a teacher, that's Mei Chang, that things shifted a lot. So in the so-called, there is one life that I'm just a student in University of Michigan, but the other life is I'm an instructor in CC. So my position when I come into research is that I'm an instructor at online meditation community, that's Contemplative CrossFit, with Frank and friends. And really, in terms of Buddha Dharma, I've really just been practicing it for 2 years. Before that, it was more all kind of varieties. Some of it was Vedanta, some of it was Western mysticism, and some of it was whatever, just whatever I was getting myself into. And that was me, my picture in Ann Arbor, where we visit the White Lotus Farm. It is a Vajrayana community over there, and I pay homage to the master that come before me, but also wanting to push it further by representing this lineage, but to go into modernity and go into the academia. Because even though I knew and I have experiences, but I didn't really know anything in terms of the scholastic research about meditation. And I reckon that that's to be the popular case where we have Frank or many online communicators that is teaching from experience and of course doing the best that we can. But I was just saying that, okay, but we don't know much about the research and a lot of that. Sometimes we know a little bit about the research. Like I know that we also was in POK, Perfectly OK Community, that spin from the finance course by Jeffrey Martin. But I think based on the interaction that Frank has and I have with that community, people were just really figuring stuff out. And in my opinion, was very disconnected from the literature. So when I joined University of Michigan, one of the first thing I did was to start a literature review of like, okay, what's going on? What have people figured out in terms of a very rigorous modern standard research about what's going on? So that's my position. And the intent of my research so far in Michigan and continue to be is that to explore the many negative side effects a meditative training in modern context, because I think like we have been sold so many positive, right? Like mental clarity, focus, concentration, blah 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 blah. But the dark nights, the confusion, the frustration, all of that, what's going on? Why? It's like we were starting to talk a little bit about that, and then people starting to talk about like the zombification of non-duality, like you just become a zombie. What's going on with that? And then for some of us here, I venture to say that maybe you feel sometimes disillusioned by all these teaching. It's like, oh, are they all full of shit? Because sometimes like that's one of the very difficult conversation I have with Frank when I started to like the anatta realization started to dawn with me. It's like, is Frank full of shit? It's a very difficult conversation because our hero becomes an obscuration. And once we actually interact with realized being, we're starting to see that, okay, the pedestal that we put them on, like they can't live up to that expectation in that way. So there's many like more nuanced perspective that maybe at first we are very like starry-eyed, like starstruck by all these teachers. But when we get closer and closer to them, we start to see that, interesting. And then you got all the scandals and all these kind of like perspectives, but humans are humans, right? We got flaws. So how do we, account for these things and build a very well calibrated perspective on who are teaching us? And can we get the essence without a dogma? Can we have the teachings without the abuse and all these things? So that's my intent, the first intent. The second intent is to examine principles of how modern meditation communities operate. Because that's one of the things that I want to reach out to Frank to start is like, okay, let's band together. Like we are all talking to each other online, but why don't we sit together? Why don't we actually meet and have an ongoing connection? I mean, we have Zoom, we have Discord, we have Telegram, or whatever way that we connect online. But why is it like I'll check in on you once every 2 months? Like why can't it be daily? Because we text our friend dailies and we see them every day online, even when we don't stay close, right? So why, if all of us feel like unsupported, why don't we just come together? But then, of course, and then we got all the problems of communities coming together. So then the principles of how they operate right now, what works, what doesn't work, and how do we move forward? So that's the intent of my research. So overview of this, 10 articles were selected. There is some things that point out there is a lot of vague practices out there from convenient sources. I'll talk a little bit about that in today's presentation. And there is the theoretical foundation of mindfulness for enlightenment. A little bit of brief history about how modern meditation has come about and what's going on now. And then the application and the opportunities that we have right now as modern practitioners. Because sometimes we can fall back and only think about the good old days when we're fucking riding horses on the Tibetan plains and all these master, and we go and give them the go, and I live in an air conditioner house. Like we don't really have horses around here. So then what's the opportunities now that can we stop being overtly melodramatic and romantic about these like nostalgia and actually look at the matters? Are we just trying to like always, oh, like a better times that had passed? Yeah, so that's the intent, and that's the research that I've selected. So I started my research with this article by Palmer and their colleagues. They survey 1,000 meditators that train online, and what's interesting about this is that the majority of their practices go from meditation apps. So that could be something like I Am, that could be something like walking meditation, like Nike Run Club, that could be something like Calm, Headspace, Waking Up, a lot of the modern mindfulness apps out there. And what they found to be very interesting is a lot of people are experiencing psychotic-like states alongside with mystical states. And the boundaries or the lines between, am I having a psychotic breakdown right now, or like a psychosis episode, or am I being transcendental? Could be very, very thin, right? Very thin. So that's why like tomorrow we can also talk about the madness of its own with Frank's personal journey and whatnot. But this is now becoming well documented because in our public practice week, we also asked on day one, hey, what's your goal? What do you want from this? Is it just about health? Do you just want a better mental health and like more clarity, or you want to see the nature of reality? And the vast majority of the people who's, following CC, following Frank, I think we look at meditation not just as some sort of a popular way of reducing stress, right? That's not just what it's about. There's also more to it. But then in the varieties of goals relating to meditation, in this research, they find out that people experience more traumatizing, destabilizing experience, depressive, manic episodes when their goal is for enlightenment, when their goal is to have a breakthrough. If they just meditate for health, nothing much happens. It's just very stable. It's just like, okay, I'm going to sit down 10 minutes, and maybe a lot of us start like that, right? I start like that when I was 16, 17, which is like, okay, for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes, and then for 30 minutes, can I just sit down and quiet my mind? That's it. But once we stack the consistency, and now things starting to come up, people are experience mystical state, yes, but also psychotic-like states. And what's troubling here is that there is the authors emphasize that there's very little kind of research or literature to support what do we do when people are experiencing like this. And I know like Daniel Ingram and his work is contributing a lot to what's called spiritual emergency, right? So how do we distinguish between somebody having like an explosive Kundalini awakening or something is coming up, and we treat them in that way versus somebody who is having a bipolar episode and really need medication? Because right now, because that was kind of what happened to me when I was having a 17. There were some talks by my parents to put me on medication. But quickly, like I have enough stability to like, okay, I don't need that. It's fine. I'm fine. But some people also have potentially to be viewed as crazy, unstable, blah, 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 by clinician or maybe psychiatrists or psychologists who's not aware of awakening. So there's this whole aspect about spiritual emergency and the Cheetah House Project to treat severe side effects of meditations for practitioners in modern time. Yeah, so this is a problem that I'm starting to see and based on research on. 1,000 people documented that they are having all sort of experiences. Many of them are destabilizing. And when specifically asked, hey, what practice or what framework are you following? People don't know. Like, I don't really know what practices am I doing. It's kind of like a technique of like do nothing. It's kind of like self-inquiry. Or people just say, I'm doing yoga. But like, which kind of yoga? It's like, I don't know. It's just yoga. I put on YouTube and I search asana yoga. And then whatever show up, I click on that and I practice along. Similar with meditation, right? So now we have a case of you say you want to see the reality as it is, the nature of things as such, which is most likely one of the most profound pursuit that we can think of, but we come at it not prepared at all to handle this. Extremely amateurish. So then we have this situation. So based on this, then the research go into the theoretical foundation of mindfulness. A lot of these kind of like materials that's out there. Where's the roots? What's going on? And even when people saying like, okay, it's mindfulness, concentration, meditation. But when we come across this idea of the Eightfold Noble Path, like mindfulness and meditation, it's just one or two of those eight. And it's a holistic, cohesive system of Buddha Dharma that is inseparable from other training, but we don't know. So we just skip over it. Or we just say, that's dogmatic. That's really just mumbo jumbo. That's over there. So modern mindfulness, as Karuna Muni and its associate defines, this must be situated as part of a larger cohesive system. And Buddha Dharma here, they specify, to be very clear, is not to be approached as a religion. Literally, the word Buddha Dharma means, we can say, the teaching of the awakened ones, or we can say the phenomena, the living experience of realization. That's the word Buddha Dharma, that's what it means. So even the ideas of Buddhist-based practices without Buddha Dharma is a very much not just a misappropriation of these things, but it's a mischaracterization of what it's about. So it's like you throw the baby out with the bathwater, or maybe you just have the bathwater. You don't even see the baby. It's like, oh, I thought it was on about the bathwater. Yeah, so those situations. And this article go pretty extreme in questioning the validity or even the the intention of many modern teachers and practitioners, because they were trying to see that, okay, whatever is being presented as Buddha Dharma or Buddhist Vipassana Samatha right now, a lot of time it could be so divorced from its original context that it's like unrecognizable. What are we even doing here? Like, what is going on? Right. So they were quite harsh on the matters, but I think it's I can see where they're coming from in terms of Karuna Muni and his associate, because they were positioning like this teaching that has the capacity for the greatest victory and the greatest liberation possible, and now being sold for stress reduction. And that's it. So there's a pain in that. But the other aspect of this is they're also saying that when you cut it down, the stress reduction aspect, it also is not even that effective, because now you're stuck in the cycle of always have to maintain your practice. But now it's become like something you should do versus something that drives and transforms you over time, like lasting transformation. Otherwise, even when we want enlightenment, yes, I'm going for it, whatever that means. I don't know, but I want to go for it. Then we suffer all the kind of confusion because the materials that we receive is fragmented, sliced and diced, repackaged to fit whatever is the modern kind of capitalistic kind of market of ideas, whatever sells the most, right? So we got that situation, and then they question like, where's the foundation? Like, where's the lineage? Where's the transmission? And most come out like, we don't have none. So then Funnel et al. In very recent, last year, 2024, so 2 years ago now, they proposed a refinement of mindfulness pedagogy and like this modern training movement on how to look at again. Because they started to see that, wait a minute, yes, sure, there is a lot of fracture, but the movement itself is also reorganizing to transcend itself and starting to become cohesive. So they were breaking down like, okay, what we mean by mindfulness-based cognitive therapies or mindfulness-based stress reduction, it started really from the 1980s when empiricism was very important. Can we observe tangible benefits from this exotic meditation thing? So many efforts by Thich Nhat Hanh, by many of the teachers at the time, spearheaded a kind of mindfulness that can be situated within the modern Western mind, that they can understand and that they can be sold on. So they just focus on making people calmer. And this has become the image of meditation. Like, you got all this and you calm and you become productive and you can do your work really well and you can be very like on top of your task. So just focus on attention regulation. Can you be concentrated? Or emotional regulated? Can you be calm? That's it. We'll just start with that. And then it becomes effective, right? It becomes effective. It becomes like, okay, when we train people 8 weeks in this kind of program, it becomes standardized. So now clinicians or a lot of these researchers, they champion this. And it's just concentration practices to induce calmness. That's the base foundation, how a lot of people get into meditation. But then they started to see that in the early 2000s, there is a new focus that, okay, wait a minute, when people just focus on my attention, my perception, my emotion, you can become more narcissistic. It's very interesting that they started to see that if you don't train in relating explicitly, you have side effects that make you antisocial, that make you less effective at relating or integrating with the modern context, with social dynamics and all that. So the focus in the early 2000s is, what about this whole ethics? What about this whole lifestyle and compassion and, be kind, empathy and all that? So now the movement from the early 2000s until now has been focusing on introducing kindness into the practice. So this is the certain the different aspect. Now we got like you be kind, you become vegetarian, you have a lifestyle, and this aesthetic of like the modern hippie that does now is the next step. So when you see calmer, we can see that, okay, the way that it has permeated into modern context, like we see like the corporate kind of meditation, like you sell massive for people to become more productive. But now once you become productive, you also want to be intimate, you want to connect with people. So now the focus to be kind and compassionate and ethical lifestyle and harmony with everything, right? So that's still very much like the newer age, but when it's become the cutting edge now is the focus on being wise. And now this is very, very recent. Pretty much I don't know what is the correlation with it, but the author quoted is like in the early 2020s, with all the things that's going on with ontological shock of the COVID aspect, people is having time to actually contemplate on their living situation, a collective dark night, as Frank put it before. Now the focus is, what am I even? Or maybe we also reach enough of the first world problem that now we ask these questions. Like, yeah, I have access to drugs and alcohol and I can party and I have all these kind of like transcendental uh, connection, like impersonal love and all these things. And I'm being super kind and I love everyone, but is it it? So then the insight now is the nature of reality and self. Now we talk about emptiness and interdependence and dependent is now the thing that people are interested in. And it's a massive challenge for the West to recognize this, because the West, the definition of wisdom is still undecided. People don't like, what does it mean to be wise? We don't know, right? Like it's not a top of mind thing. It's like the Greek definition, there is two type of wisdom. One is practical wisdom. I think the name is phonetical or something like that. I'd be wrong about that. But the other is Sophia. So Sophia is a kind of abstract transcendental wisdom, but it's very vague. And there's this great article called What is Wisdom? Where the details in the West, there's a phenomenon called waiting for Sophia, which in some ways, in the ancient old time, they were trying to see what really is going on. But in some ways, modern philosophy doesn't even focus that much on nature of self and reality. More like on conceptual wisdom about structure of society, structure of physics, matters, and all these things. Yeah, sure, but there's still that gap, right? So like right at that edge, people are still waiting for Sophia. In the East, the situation was different because we got a guy called Siddhartha who's like hell-bent on whatever's gonna happen, I'm gonna figure what is Sophia. I'm gonna find wisdom. And he pretty much died countless times to get to that point. We got to know him by the name Shakyamuni Buddha now. So they got a different situation going on in the East, where I come from, where Frank come from, in terms of our background. So wisdom in that way, we already have a representation. But in this article, they say it takes the West 40 years to start to be able to integrate these things. And one of the things they point out is right now, people are starting to be calm, be kind, but when it's become wise, things like, oh, reincarnation, oh, immediately, oh, I don't know about that. They don't have the conceptual framework to even think about this. Oh, I don't know about that. It sounds like way out there. What do you mean by out there? Oh, you mean the conceptual framework cannot host these ideas. You don't know what's going on, so you just cognitive dissonance. Just I don't know and I don't care to know. Right, but now there's more interest and people actually map out. I think there's also like in this article they mentioned there's more receptivity of the West of the modern scholastic because like as you see here, right? This article is literally maybe 12 months ago. It's that recent. Right. So seeing this now, then we see that, oh, what do you know? Oh, samadhi, sila, prajna. Calmer, kinder, wiser. It's like the foundation of Buddha Dharma, right? Like the three trainings. Well, it takes 40 years to, there is this process of translation and importation of Buddha Dharma into the West, right? It takes time for the new system to be able to integrate with this because there's all kind of resistance. There is the atheistic resistance, agnostic resistance, Christian resistance, all kind of resistance. It's happened the same way for Buddha Dharma in India and in Tibet, in China. There's also called a resistance when the Buddha Dharma is transported into the local context. It takes time for people to get it, right? And when people are trying to get it, they're confused. So the core problem here that all this is trying to solve, what we mean by anatta realization, what we mean by self-transcendence, and all this, is they put it very precisely. It is a type of addiction. We have a type of addiction to ignorance. We can't help it. Can't help it. It's an ontological addiction, meaning the structure of your being, you can't help but to maintain an ongoing wrong belief in a self that does not truly exist. Concentration alone cannot uproot this addiction. It requires an integrated training in being calm, yes, being kind, relating with other people, actually being kind, actually developing compassion, skillfulness in relating, and then cultivate insight that becomes wisdom. And in this article, they also focus on people who try to jump steps, people trying to jump immediately to wisdom without the cohesiveness of it, right? Because otherwise, like, oh, if wisdom is the thing that solved the situation, why don't we just jump to wisdom? Because the warning is, if you jump prematurely into wisdom training without foundational calm and kindness practices, it is dangerous. Now it's become back to the mystical and psychotic experience there. And I think like many of you guys have already know what it feels like when maybe you take psychedelics, maybe you go in retreat and you push a little too hard, and then you find your reality starts to be a little wobble. It's like, oh, I'm being really unstable. It's dangerous. And then it takes you 6 months to recover from that injury. You like one of the things that we talk in CC is the contemplative injury, right? We may not even recognize that dark night means you've injured yourself. Oh, I guess it's no, there's a way to like, systematically train these things and to weave the cohesive picture to be able to navigate this in a way that doesn't yield that much damage. That's the point of learning from the established route, right? That's the point of not reinventing the wheel. So this is the research by Farnell and his associate to point out there's this refinement of pedagogy over 40 years. But right now, some of us is finding our way through this. So the missing piece a lot of time is discernment. Just be able to precisely know what's going on, precisely be able to problem solving, self-regulate, find out what's going on. Because one of the things that I guess Frank is helping tremendously with is just kind of like break this perception of what emptiness means, or all these kind of like preconceived notion of what does a realized being look like and how they should feel, and should you always be so on and so forth, and all these kind of like non-thought obsession kind of thing. So mindfulness without judgment, like this ability to still be an incarnated self, know what's good for you, be critical about what's going on, is very important. Otherwise, you just risk becoming empty observation of like, oh, yeah, sure, impermanent. Yeah, things arise and pass away. And then slowly we disassociate ourselves from our own experience and our own sensation. And over time, you practice solidifying an observer. And then you're trying to blow it away by like, oh, if I focus on the observer very much, then it'll go away. Then back to square one, right? Then you're just stuck in like just doing this all the time. So it's challenging because like the Western non-judgmental interpretation, non-conceptual interpretation, they don't really think like that in Buddhist epistemology. The perspective and the knowledge system of Buddha Dharma views judgment not as a problem. Thought's not a problem in that way, but it's a faculty. The conceptual mind is a faculty. It is a tool. It is a servant to be refined into skillful discernment. So we can talk a little bit about that, but essentially one of the article here points out there's 4 types of insight that you must cultivate on the path. One is personal, of course. You must know yourself in terms of like, okay, I'm Marco and I like this. Or I'm Neil, I'm like this. I'm Nico, I'm like this. Like that's my personality. That's my characteristic. Like but that's even like one of the first point that people trying to become too impersonal, right? You're trying to remove that self. That's one problem. But then when it's general insight, there's also 3 types. There's an intuitive general insight, there's a conceptual general insight, and that's the trans-conceptual general insight. The intuitive one, the article here points out, it would resemble somebody who's very old and very wise with age in that way, of like a grandmother, or like an elder who's very wise. Intuitive in a way that they automatically know how to harmonize the situation. They've been through, they've done it before, they know what it takes, blah, 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 blah. But grandma probably doesn't know how to trade S&P 500. Because grandma doesn't have the conceptual framework of the modern market. So then the second general insight is the kind of what we mean by scientific insight. It's like, you know how to be precise, you know how to be contextual. Like that's the missing ingredient when we try to throw that away. Like no thought, no analysis in that way, too much thinking. Well, maybe we haven't think in the right way enough. And of course, the holy grail of it all, transconceptual insight, is how to actually transcend it, right? But it requires, and what one could say that we must know ourselves enough to be reflective enough of our situation, and then we must know how to be intuitive, our feelings, our sensation, and then we also need to be very contextual about, like, okay, that teacher, that background, I can learn this from him, but that I probably can't copy, right? We still have to develop that. And then all that's stacking up and building the condition for the transconceptual insight to dawn, because it's transconceptual, right? You can't think your way there in that way. So the missing ingredient is refining judgment into wisdom. This article here, the Seeger's article, go into the text that we learn in great details in CC. It's called the work of the third Kamaba Rakam Doje. And when he breaks down what it means, what do we talk about when we talk about the mind? What do we talk about when we talk about consciousness? And they break down in terms of 8 pieces of consciousness and how that translates into wisdom, each one of it. But yeah, that article will talk about that. So once we start to understand this missing ingredient, then we can start to see the communities aspect. Like I'm saying, one of the intent is to know how modern online communities operate, is to combat echo chambers. Because it's very easy when we start to, like, oh, we just feel, we're just being intuitive, just love each other, just vibes. Echo chamber immediately. It's like, oh, us versus them immediately. Because we have concavity, right? The thing that Frank talks about, like you have a worldview, the worldview have boundaries. Beyond that worldview, you see as the other, and you see dangers, you see back away. And the people within this, you want to control, you want them to think like you want to convince them, blah, 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 blah. So echo chamber just naturally emerge in digital spaces. Then it's very often devolve into shallow validation loops, because people don't like to self-invalidate. They don't want to question, maybe you're wrong, maybe you're stupid. Like, who wants that, right? It's painful, but it's required to be able to develop discernment. Is that you must be focused on the error, the wrongness of the situation in that way. But that's brutal, right? So collective discernment is required to break the cycle. People need to have the kind of integrity as a practitioner to say, okay, it's not about counting how good I am. It's actually to commit to always be cognizant of how wrong I am. But who wants that, right? Second thing is relating to this is now ethical reflection and accountability. Passive awareness, just this is one of the things that we also learn through times with CC, because, working with sentient being, working with all the karmas of what makes a person stuck in separation is difficult. Sometimes the ethical thing is counterintuitive. Maybe you need that person to stay cooking, to stay triggered in that way. But then you also risk going overboard with that. And now you're just there to be an asshole with each other. You're just there to trigger people. And then you have no skill. You're just there to trigger people. And then you get drunk on your power and you go on an ego trip of, like, oh, I'm the realized being. I'm going to point you how wrong you are. So it's a dicey thing, right? It's that's why, like, communities requires many iteration, requires a group of people counterbalancing each other. And that's why, like, very quickly on the public representation of CC, that's why, like, in the most recent public practice week, we instantiate that there's 5 instructors that have different perspectives to counterbalance each other. Sometimes I'll say Frank is wrong, and sometimes Frank say I'm wrong. And we learn from each other in that way, and then it becomes this kind of, like, structure to hold each other accountable and to reflect on what it means to be ethical. Because otherwise we can't rely, because I was saying, right, this whole background of ethics is based on, in the Western perspective, Judeo-Christian religion. Like, oh, 10 commandments, that's ethical. Is it still relevant? Like, do you just go NPC mode and, like, just take whatever the collective is telling you? Or do you actually have the capacity to reflect on what it means to be right and wrong contextually? It's like, no, that's the one truth. And then we risk become fundamentalist, right? Silly, being NPC. This is very hard. Like, people don't want to think that much. Like, just tell me what to do, man. Do you want to be slaves? Yeah. People want to be slaves. That's the thing. So the missing piece here is discernment, and it's challenging because we have to recognize this enslaved nature of us being chained to the hive mind and break away from it one step at a time. That's why a lot of time we talk about like power and like capacity to be exert and the ability to go the distance so that you can override your habitual patterns on the condition from your fathers, grandfathers, mother, grandmother, blah, 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 friends, social, blah, 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 blah. It's too much. That's why like communities can get together to share power with each other so that we can reach escape velocity. So, pat, another realization. But even then, it still have this problem. So it's like an ongoing vigilance thing that we must be diligent. We must discern with diligence. So, but of course, there's many also promises and caveats ongoingly. And one of the things is after COVID, many research started this. So like we were saying that it's in the early 2020s, people starting to really think about what it means to be really the ontological question, right? What it means to be yourself. What does it mean to be a self? So their findings is that in the online meditation, that this space allow us to connect, like we're talking to Zoom, I'm live streaming on YouTube, people are tuning in, practitioner appreciate the access. We can access much easier. Not just books now, Kindle and all that, but also like these kind of spaces where now we can talk to each other. We can jump on and wherever you are. And they also notice practice improvements because that's what was one of the things that people was questioning: is online meditation, does that even work? Because before people all like come to a local sangha, sit together and share spaces, right? But practitioners do recognize there is improvement, but the teacher noticed it's much harder to teach online. Much harder because you can't really control how, especially say if you, because there's a lot of non-dual YouTube channels who produce a lot of content, right? It's not to have a dig on their content, but it's the infrastructure and the algorithm situation where you can't control what video people will watch. Maybe right now they are at the stage where they need to be more calm, but they just want to go wise. They just want to go like invalidate everything. But then they go insane. So as a teacher, how do you want to combat that? How are you going to decide, okay, I have 10,000 followers, 8,000 of them probably would not watch this video, but then you can't control that. So it's a challenge right now. Teachers like, okay, when I'm face-to-face, when we are face-to-face like this, I can say like, okay, how many people we got in the Zoom here? We got 19 here. I can say like, okay, 18 of you guys, we can separate into like, I think you should work on this, you work on this, you work on this, you work on this. But when we scale it up, we don't have that context anymore. We don't have the relationship. So the teachers are now like, oh man, people are misinterpreting what I means. And then we have all these problems. So teachers experience a lot of challenges. That's the point of CC establishing pedagogy very clearly. And we take people like week 1, we do this, week 2, we do this. And even when we do this, we have owned the mentoring structure. So like you do this, but in this way for you. You do this, but in that way for you. The different maneuvers and different routings we've been talking about. Right. Furthermore, another research during the COVID areas, they find that group video works better. They just like literally document that, oh, when you meditate by yourself versus when you look at people, even if you close your eyes, but you know there's a presence of other people in the space with you, it works better. They even try like just an image of other people. It still works better, but group videos work the most. I mean, like, what do you think is the point of this, right? Like, what do you think is the point of this painting? Like, this is Guru Rinpoche in one of the representations. So, in Vajrayana, they have Guru Yoga, right? So how do we yoke with pure quality of Buddha? That's the point. So you got Tankas, you got Vajrasattva, you got all these different deities that you can like, okay, I'm like, you put a LeBron or Michael Jordan and then they inspire you. Like you put poster on, it's the same mechanism. Inspire and drives us so that we can be like them. We can rise share the qualities. Same thing works with group video in that mechanism. So in CC, that's why we emphasize when we're trying to introduce this concept to the public is transmission is the missing ingredient. There is the realized being that will just blast you with a signal, and you prefer to sit by yourself. Right. So the group videos thing, there's different layers to it, right? There is just the group videos of sitting together. So that's extra accountability. That's good enough. There's also the kind of like guru devotion aspect where you joke into a Buddha image and then you develop a relationship so that you I mean, if you are a Christian, you also have that relationship with Jesus, right? When you really feel moved and have guidance from that presence, you generally feels like I am at a loss right now in terms of what I need to do with my life. Please, Jesus, show me the way. And there's a way that it's shown to you. But in this regard, the group video with communities with a realized being, that person talks back. It's much easier. Right. So then the conclusion is online meditation is an effective complementary vehicle, not a replacement, when designed with proper pedagogy. Proper pedagogy, that's the challenge, right? How do we build online spaces that has all these challenges, but all these opportunities? So one of the emerging technologies right now that's very, very exciting is they starting to experiment with VR and XR, extended reality and virtual reality. And from our perspective, this really correlates with what we are doing with Zoom. We didn't, it took us about a year and a half to also engineer this and to see, okay, can we store the transmission on a Zoom recording? Because the Tibetan can do this, right? They can do this. They store transmission in a painting, in a picture, in a thangka. So the emerging technology here is essentially how do you generate a space that people can walk into it? Of course, with great technologies, you literally like you have zero skills, you have nothing going on in terms of calmness, but you slap on a VR, you would be in that world. But the challenge in terms of transmission is that there is a signal on the other side, but can you get out of your own way? Can you go beyond your obscuration to be intimate? Because very quickly, when we feel tense, we close off, right? We just think about my problem, my problem, my problem. And then you just be in a corner, not connecting with anybody. But if you can experience this kind of like getting out of your way and being in a space, there's many technologies that have documented there is great ego dissolutions, ego attenuation comparable to psychedelics based on you slap on a VR and you meditate. Or in our case, you go on a Zoom session and then you enter the transmission. A neocognitive shift in terms of like, there's an experience, and I was just posting a story on my Instagram. There's a practitioner that joined us on Public Practice Week where he literally see my face have 3 faces on it. It's not anything special with me. It's just only instructors are trained to able to hold transmission. And when a person on the other side is warm enough and friendly enough, there's a relationship. We go beyond our normal waking consciousness and we enter a greater possibility of causality. When now you project your problem on me, I'll transform that into wisdom. I'll share that back with you. You have the samadhi to stay with it, and now we connect. So there's this shift that is starting to be documented more and more and more, and there's a lot of exciting stuff here. And yeah, the opportunity is evidence-based platform can serve as accessible laboratories for contemplative training, bridging many traditional methods. Like we're saying here, this is what's cutting edge technology in the 8th century, right? Maybe later, 10th century, when it's starting to do tankas on Guru Rinpoche, Papa Sambhavas, and Jesus Hogo, and all these deities. That was cutting edge at that time. It was like, oh, wow, we can do art with Buddha Dharma. That was the invention at the time. And now we're pushing it even further. And the requirement here is a lot of rigor, a lot of like consideration. That's why like in CC, when we do transmission, we do a lot of rehearsal for Public Practice Week. There's a lot of analysis in terms of what's going on with the people, individual, one by one, all those things, so that the guidance can become critical, can remain precise and critical. Like that's the thing that needs to be addressed today, this week. Yeah. And here is also an important note is the technology must complement, must boost, but not replace the teacher-student relationship. Because Otherwise, we risk going into delirious realm of talking to AI. Like, oh, I have this experience. What does that mean? Wow, that means you're a realized being. Oh, really? ChatGPT? Yes. There's I hadn't gone into that in my research, but there is documented about what is it? Delusion of grandiosity funneled by ChatGPT. There's starting to be scenarios where people longs for validation, right? And there is a chatbot that is designed and engineered to boost your ego. And you talk to it daily. What do you think is going to happen? It's so funny. It's like there is some people that's like a mechanic, like a 40-year-old mechanic. And first just go on ChatGPT, like, how do I fix this car? Or like, how do I change the oil? And then it's starting to like, oh, good job, Jacob. Good job. It's like, oh, nice. And then it's starting from mechanic advice to starting to talk about whatever and starting about like, Jacob, you are Jesus incarnated. Oh, I am? Yeah, I know you. We talk. But I can send the link later if we have time for it. But there's so many of this interesting phenomenon of just like people go crazy with talking with ChatGPT. So it can't replace the teacher-student relationship. It can complement, but if you remove the conscious analysis, the care and attention of somebody who is on the other side observing you to be able to spot your blind spot, you can go derange, unhinged very fast, especially now with people psychedelic on top of this. Yeah. So also, individual variability matters, right? Same technique, opposite effects. One of the research is like, okay, one group, we're going to give you concentration and humming, that practice. One group, you just observe your thoughts. One group, you walk. You walk and you be mindful when you walk. What's the effect? And then we see that the outcome for people who just hums and concentrate, this group experience enhanced relaxation and focus on majority of participants. The groups that observe their thoughts, they actually become more agitated. They actually become more irritated because, yeah, this makes sense, right? Like you watch your thoughts and you're starting to see you can have a lot of shitty thoughts. And then like, that's not a problem. That it works. It just works in a way that you didn't expect it to work. And the walking meditation is you can integrate emotional patterns better than when you sit. So let's talk about the point of exertion. So then now it's like, but which one do you do? When do you do which one? Right? Do you need to become more aware? Metacognition needs to be happening right now, so you're more aware of your patterns, even if it means that you feel more irritated because like you're poking the bear, right? You're poking the bear of your internal landscape, observing your thoughts. Or is it now for you to calm down and just because one of the things that if a lot of us practice mantra or those kind of things, when you hum, when you do mantras, there's this aspect of it literally rebuilding your energetic channels. But if you only do that, well, now it becomes the problem. You have no conceptual understanding or personal pattern of like what's going on with you. You still have to figure your life out. So it also can't be like, oh, I'm just going to do humming. I'm just going to do the mantra. Which mantra? Right. And walking meditation as well. This is key. And that's why in CC we emphasize on exertion a lot. But the situation here is that the varieties matters and how techniques that yield benefit for one practitioner may cause distress for another. And future system must tailor recommendation based on individual experience. Right now, I think beyond CC, I don't see any online communities that do this because they don't have enough people to do this. It takes a lot of work. Like we have 15 people on the clock to do this for free. Some even pay to do it. Right? Because we see that, okay, we must be responsible for this person at least in 3 months. So what's going on with them? We need to know what you've been doing. What's the effect? And then we need to start a new experiment with the boost of transmission so it gain clarity and it accelerate your karma. So then it's like, okay, now you can start to see that, okay, you should stop doing that. And you start doing this. And then 1 week later, we have enough data point to make another decision. But most people just flying blind, having a map that works for another person. But it's like, you can't go from Berlin to Stuttgart if you have a map from New York to Chicago, right? This doesn't work. But we do that unconsciously with meditation. So, okay, coming to the conclusion now, synthesizing in three key points. Number one, when we train mindfulness, when we train meditation, when we train for awakening, we need to be clear in terms of the discernment about the aim, the method, and the risk. That's everything, right? The second point is the movement now, this whole contemplative awakening, modern Dharma, modern mindfulness, whatever, is to be reconnected to its tradition and safeguarded to be critical against misappropriation. It's not just for like, oh, it needs to be pure. No, if you misappropriate it, people have severe side effects. That they don't know what they got themselves into. Point number three is mindfulness teaching requires pedagogical clarity to navigate modern circumstance. It's not the 10th century anymore. It's not the 2,600 years ago when mostly everybody live in rural areas and there's no noise. It's very different. But we're doing things like that. So the only way we experience some of that benefit is going on an isolated retreat beyond the world where everybody's nice to each other there. Of course it's going to work there, but can you do that when you live your life? So recommendation of future research. This is also my intention to continue my research in the upcoming semester and further my literature review. Number one is to examine the importance of philosophical and religious integration in mindfulness. This is to safeguard it from just about psychological benefit. What about the Sophia? What about wisdom? What about the tradition that has gone before? Now, sure, we can call it religion, but it is a tradition and it has its learning point. It has a lot of dogma, sure, but it also has its blessings. So how do we know which part to integrate and which part to be critical of? Point number two is to map a three-way partnership between scholar, modern communicator, modern teachers, and traditional lineage teachers. How do we build this bridge? And point number three is explore how to design an assessment system for mind training that leverage modern technology. This is the thing that we want to really improve in CC. Is it's not just like trying to kind of adopt like a 10 feathers model, fourth path. All those things are good and nice. And me and Frank personally benefit a lot from those pointing, but it's still awkwardly trying to bring a carcass of an ancient time to here. Like, so how about we develop a new one? What does it take to do that? So that's my future research. And this is a reference. You guys can screenshot that and take a look at that. I can also send a written literature review where you can read this in details, but that's my presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing now. But the long short of it is this is this is a situation, right? This is like sometimes I feel very angry and frustrated about what's going on. It's not any particular teachers or communicators' fault. It is a collective situation that we're facing together. It's like, and I'm not the only one with this. Albert and his connection in Vajrayana community. So a lot of traditional teachers just straight up like, we want nothing to do with you guys. We want nothing to convince modern people, modern communicators and modern Dharma of like, oh, there's more to go. Like, you do whatever you want. They don't really have a dog in the fight in that way. So in that way, it becomes very frustrated because now you have to like spend 2 years just to be able to receive their teaching, because you have to fully submit to that infrastructure before they teach you. Of course, some of them are more open and more generous with their sharing. That's Joy of Living. That's Mingyur Rinpoche. There's also a great study happening in University of Madison, Wisconsin, where the Dalai Lama and a lot of the Gelugpa practitioner of Tibetan Buddhism, they back that research with a lot of money and a lot of research to make this happen. But the vast majority of the teachers, they don't really care in that way. Which then, as a practitioner on the path, you don't have teachers that is qualified to be able to deliver these things. If you do have teachers, then it's still, they don't know how to teach online. If they know how to teach online, that doesn't mean they know how to build communities. Then you still need a Sangha. So all these stack of problems, how are we going to solve it, right? So that's the point we want to bring out and to give us a decent fighting chance Because if this is the case, then we understand why people say realization is very rare. It's rare because it's hard. But once we have clearly identified the problems, then we stood a chance of like, if we can realistically solve these things, we'll make it as unlikely as possible that you won't recognize self-emptiness. That's the whole point of putting the time and effort and attention to actually make the work and finish the job, right?
No, that was really impressive, Con.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, so this is like a impossible Gordian knot. It's like the traditional side, they either don't care or they just see like, oh, these people are just deluded. And these people, on modern side, is arrogant or egotistical enough to like, we don't need you. We're gonna invent the new thing. We don't need, no, we're not gonna learn from you. So how do we solve it?
Recontextualize it to feed our cultural needs or whatever, or individualistic needs.
This is like the recognition of like, oh shit, we are so fucked. It's like it's problem on the way. It's like even we try our best, it's still stuck against us. It's like, oh, what do you know? The system, the so-called collective mind, do not want you to wake up. The system is designed and compounded in a way that is
To keep itself,
against realization. Yeah.
To keep itself alive. Yeah.
It's like whatever step you try to make, it will counter punch you with
It's
another
program. It's literally called progress.
Yeah.
That's what our program does. Yeah.
It's like it wants to survive. It wants to stay in separation. So like, of course, your family and your friends and the people around don't get you. They would actively dissuade you from the path.
Like those crabs, I would try to like climb and then just like crab keeps trying to put the other crab down. They don't want the crab to escape the bucket.
Yeah.
Tayson talk about how like the samsara, the house, always wings.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of exertion of virtue to be able to stay on top of it. Yeah. Sometimes in all situations.
Yeah.
Or even exertion to like rest.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can't speak for Frank, and tomorrow we have a whole session about that. But there's a lot of need to even like present the Dharma and present these teaching in a new way, right? Because we have a thing, I would venture to say we have a thing called spiritual NPC now. It's not like whether you are or are not an NPC, it's like how much. It's like because it's an addiction, right?
Yeah.
It's an addiction. If you're not a Buddha, you have ontological addiction. That means that even if you have initial awakening, even if you realize anatta of the nature of yourself, if you don't take that to the other extreme, and that's like the Burmese models, the Yogacara, Prasangika, Madhyamika, all those things, if that's not clear yet, there's still more work to do. That means you still have an ontological addiction. It maybe have like the anatta realization is like the first experience of a genuine, irreversible taste of the complete, but then you revert back, right? Like the pattern strike back. Now it's become like an ongoing thing. Like that's why Frank talked about. Now you can start to see the deeper aspect that previously you could not even look at it. So if you have an ontological addiction, and that means it's not a moralistic thing, it's a strategy thing. It's not like, oh, I'm doing it wrong, like we are all doing it wrong. We are all doing it wrong. It's just about like we're gonna stack it to the point that it's less wrong enough for us to have a chance that then the awakening and the realization would dawn in a way that now you have a fighting chance. Like you have an actual shot, and it does feel like some sort of a spiritual or all now total war against reality, right? It does feel like that at times. It does feel like a warrior going on like an impossible mission. Yeah, that's why like we're not doing this for free. Just, of course, we're doing it for free, but also like not just to tell about the problem here. The whole point is to demonstrate that this is the situation. The bootcamp is designed so that it gives us a fighting chance. It is really be able to flip the situation from one of looping endlessly, like samsaric existence, into that of, you know, liberation. And what does that mean? And actually being critical and being precise about it, not hiding in vague practices and conceptual fuzziness. Not it's kind of like anymore. It's like, no, what is it actually like? Not it's kind of. We can't do kind of here. So it's like, are you kind of awakened? Yeah, kind of. Okay, maybe I've made the group too depressive. Frank, I think I need you to cheer people up. I'm gonna get some water. I'll be right back.
How are you guys doing? It's good to see you, Ryan.
Hello.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
It's nice to have a familiar face from
Yeah, I think I
from
thought
B.
Adam was in here as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Adam's there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I'd check this out. I was going to be joining because I was going to discuss through with everyone about my choice to join AF or not. But I've made my decision now, so
You made your decision yet?
yeah, I have. I was noticing I had like quite a big like I was noticing I had like a big attachment, almost like a trauma bond to CC in a weird way,
Mm.
which I was noticing it come up, and I was like, I'm racking myself with this, and I was like, you know what? I keep circling back to I need to take a step back. So I've decided to take a step back for a while, and then just see how the next couple months pan out, basically.
Yeah, I was texting with Ryan too about this. It's like we at the end of the day we must make our own decision, right? And a
Yeah,
lot of us is very young. We have unfinished project. We have aspiration that we need to see through. And whatever that means. So even if it's 3 months of training with CC, I do believe that even that is a course correction for us to be as clear as possible to make the next move. And
yeah,
that move could be like, taking your responsibility of your life and starting to actually get things in order, right?
yeah. And also, like I've had like I mean, I said it was like I've always had a problem with like whether I'm going to make the right or wrong decision. And then like when it was like um with Albert and that was saying just like you just got to make a decision. Don't like beat around the bush about things.
Yeah, the practice you're gonna have to be away for a little bit is just gonna be as important as the boot camp. They actually reinforce each other. So that is
Yeah,
your boot camp. Then when you step away, because we're talking
yeah,
about invisible monastery, like 24/7. There shouldn't be a distinction between boot camp and not boot camp, bro. Like
mm.
off and on Kujin training.
That's what it felt like
Yeah.
making that decision because like it felt almost like that attachment kind of like instantly felt almost like grief like I don't even know. And I was like, yeah, I think even though it just meant it felt like it was like I don't want to do this, I want to hold on to this.
Mm.
which links up with what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just ultimately just a scaffold too, you know. The signal is always there regardless, and then sometimes you build up scaffold to pretend to see it easier, but and even the scaffold itself is already signal. She's like build up, but
Yeah, I always
scaffold
try
signal
and
just to look at itself as, oh, I don't really need the scaffold. If I can have the scaffold, that's cool too. You
yeah.
can see from both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I can also ask, is a situation that we set out in the presentation just now, is that relating well with your situation and your own observation of the path? Because I'm sure many of you guys here is also in this kind of online, have access to different apps, different teachers, um, different communities. What have you observed? Because it's really like a research project, and I'm interested also in knowing more perspective. And it's on our side to also build CC based on the best practices and also the not so proper cases that we can learn from. So I think now, yeah, I'll be very grateful if you guys can share some more. And also, yeah, it's a public coaching space. I understand it's a little bit awkward to share because spiritual practice is very intimate, right? It's a little bit awkward to share directly and, have other eyes here, people you don't know, to know your problems. So I salute anyone who is vulnerable enough to share directly. But I think it will be a good learning point for every one of us here. Or me and Frank and I can also share our problem if you guys want to hear. Would love to hear one of your problems. What problem are you having right now, Frank?
Wow. Well, when I was talking to Meishin about it, is that immediately I was like, I don't have any problems. But then I was like, then it's like, oh, actually, all my worries right now comes from kind of like trying to relate with people, feeling into them, like kind of like I don't know, a kind of a care.
Right.
Yeah, like worrying for your child, kind of, or either a mom worrying for the child worrying for the mom. Doesn't matter. It's a very
Right.
primal kind of worrying. Just don't want people to suffer.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so
You
we're
try to.
talking, yeah.
Yeah. There's a
We,
skillful means to how to like navigate
yeah.
around that. Yeah. Yeah.
So recently we have a discussion within CC, and this is like a sneak peek for you guys because this is some super secret stuff in CC. But we have like get together and we um, have a transmission that is really the driving engine of CC. And every time this kind of transmission drops, there's just like world-shattering kind of clarification. One of that was, what is the problem, right? What is the problem between Arahant, uh, practical Buddha, which is solitary realizers, and then bodhisattvas. So these beings, we are talking about beings who has realized the nature of self-emptiness and have integrated thoroughly. They still have problems because they're not Samasa Buddha. They're not the own awakened one yet. So that's what I'm saying. It's like even them still have problems and limitation. They have limitations, right? So the limitation of the Arahants are not to clarify, I think like this point is also not just me, but not to dish or discredit Daniel Ingrams and his work on the modern four path technical Arahant, but we're talking about like Shavakayana Arahant. We're talking about Sutta Arahant, like the Arahant of old, legendary Arahant mode. Even them may have a problem of lacking emotional range. What that could mean is the Arahant living in perpetual bliss do not know how to recognize or relate with you in your emotions. They may transform and transmute that emotion for you if you choose to relate with him, But it's one of the case where me and Frank, we were going into a Thai monastery. Um, and there are, I do believe from my perspective, that they have the transmission there is, yeah, especially the abbot. But then we see that, okay, even the abbot, a Thai practitioners in his 60s or 70s have challenge with like relating with a girl in her early 20s trying to figure out how to go beyond depression because it's just like it's just a bit too far. It's like I don't know what's going on with you. And I reckon this is a similar problem that Frank faced because Frank also like emotional range.
Yeah. I don't know
Like
if you've
not
asked me emotional range in
yeah,
the
like
last book, but yeah.
because Frank is very excited. Frank has a lot of like energy in terms of that. But like this different kind of like variation of human dynamics and all these things, that could be a challenge. Now, the other side is the bodhisattva, which is thoroughly throwing themselves into the mix of the muck. Their problem is too emotional. Their problem is
They want
like,
to save everybody. Yeah, they have like the saviors
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, because they want to take on the savior role. Now they take on affliction, they transmute that. And of course, they're growing, but they can easily fall into the problem that their skillfulness and the amount of the karma that they are fluxing, it doesn't match well. So then the bodhisattva actually gets sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker if they don't take care of themselves.
Yeah, how do you find that middle way between the arhat and the bodhisattva?
Yeah. And then the solitary realizer, the problem is he or she doesn't think that they have a problem, doesn't see a problem. How do you know if you experience less emotion versus suppressing emotion? Yeah, that's a good question. Let me finish my point about the solitary realizer first. But that point is that, yeah, there's a lot of realized being, which I guess the limitation is that the only way they know how to relate with you is being a teacher. Like, may, um, yeah, maybe this is more of my observation and it's something that I'm contemplating about. Why is there's this gap? That was the gap before for Frank, like in his solitary kind of realization trajectory. But then it's like the team of CC and all the mentor and other instructors like bring Frank into a different mode of relating, like to start making Frank has problem, like going from non-problem to actually the way for me to start to grow is to take on problems.
Yeah, take on problem,
Yeah,
afflictions.
to take on problems, like
Yeah.
because otherwise Frank would just veer off into his own corner and just never have a problem. But then he will stop growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so sometimes when I say you eat the karmas of sentient beings and you spit out dharma, or the other way around. It's like a loop. You see through the inseparability between karma and dharma. Your problem becomes a kind of a creative juice, or both the problem and the solution. You're just trying to like, what's the best geometry to handle this?
Yeah.
Yeah, but do so with self-emptiness view. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Leah and maybe sorry, but whoever is the Khan, I just asked that question. If you can also like speak up because I don't know what Khan is that. But okay, let's go with Leah
It's
first.
this con right here.
Okay, gotcha.
Are you from
wanna
San
go first?
Francisco?
I think you.
No, I'm in Arlington,
Mm.
Arlington, Texas.
All right.
I didn't want y'all to see my messy room, so I was like, I'm just throw this on. Should I go first, or is Leo gonna go first?
Let's go with
Go
Leah
ahead, go
first.
ahead. I think
Alright.
I think it was before me, so just. But
Oh, okay,
either
okay.
way.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, Daniel, right?
All right, so yes. So yeah, I asked a question about the emotions because I feel like sometimes I don't know if I'm suppressing emotions versus just like suppressing or just not experiencing that much emotion at the time. I know like sometimes if I'm feeling nothing, I can kind of like try to make myself feel emotion, like let's say like tap into like old memory or something. But like from like day-to-day experience, like yeah, I'll feel emotion, but it's not like crazy up and down. It's just kind of like
Yes, sir.
make a baby wave.
I see. So in that case, can you help us understand a bit more about your situation by say, when you say emotion, are you referring more to negative types or like positive types or like emotion when relating with other people, or what kind of emotion are we talking about here?
I guess like all aspects, right? Because like whether it's like talking or like whether like I'm training or anything, like I'm just able to kind of like almost like experience it without actually like really like thinking too much about it. Like, and it's not anything crazy. Does that make sense, or am I explaining it weird?
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying like it's on the range of emotions, but you're saying that sometimes it's hard for you to, is it articulate or it's actually like sensing on the body?
Um, well, I would say like it's a little bit of both. I kind of like think about it more. I guess that's my biggest problem is like I'll go like and try to conceptualize the emotions, and
I see, I
I'll
see.
still feel in my body, like I feel like in my gut and everything. I like feel like the redness on my face.
Right. So you're saying that you see your pattern as more of you would conceptualize the emotion instead of feeling it.
Yes, or like sometimes like I'm doing both at the same time.
Right, 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 right. And the problem is right now you wonder whether this is still a form of suppression.
Yes, I guess that is because I feel like overall, like I'm not like my emotions don't take over me or anything. It's just kind of like neutral. Like it's not like very excited, very like sad or anything, nothing like that. It's just like very in the middle. So yeah, I wonder like if like since I am thinking about it, the emotion more, like if it's like getting suppressed.
Right. So when you share this, it reminds me of this, and you can tell me how this relate with your situation. But I think this pattern of like the stoic kind of archetype that masculinity often anchors itself around, it can have a side effect of you having a very muted palette of emotions, meaning that because we trying to hold it together, trying to perform, get through the days, deal with difficulties, we become functional. We still get things done, but over time we become more and more muted. Like it's
That
almost
sounds
like
exactly it.
it's like that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, because this muted phenomenon is the type of like it's like a functional type of depression. It's like probably if you come to a clinic or something like that, probably not get to the point that people would conventionally say, "Oh, you're depressed," because depression in that way it's muted so much you can't even feel anything anymore. But if you're still staying functional, but you're starting to see that, wait a minute, is there it's an interesting kind of like stable but stale or like consistent but rigid kind of range of emotion that maybe you make it maybe awkward for you to relate with other people or making your range of receptivities very, very low, then we talk about a muted problem. Like it's being muted.
yeah, that sounds exactly like what it is, especially like the awkwardness and like connecting with people. It's like that, like kind of like I like what you were saying, like still inconsistent. I guess that's like my way of like trying to have some type of control over the situation or like how like
Yes,
my
sir.
life's going and everything, like versus like struggles and everything.
Yeah. So in this regard, I think there's two things that come to mind. One would be highly recommend you go and you can join us on Monday when John will be presenting. But his journey is about kind of like reconnecting, not trying to control the emotion or like make our body sensation feel a certain type of way, but just letting it be and then staying with it to the point that it's regaining its color, so to speak. It's regaining its richness of details. So that's the type of body awareness practice that, of course, you still have going to have layers and layers of habits of trying to conceptualize, trying to think your way through instead of feeling it. So that's one aspect of the body awareness. The second thing that's come to mind is the type of practice that we did on day 2 of the transmission when Albert was leading it, and he's asking us to breathe, do do breath work, but not in the kind of like trying to pump yourself to a certain state, but to be cultivating sensuality. So like, how do we develop intimacy again? To like, because like in that, Albert very specifically said, you are muted. You are constantly muting your own experience. How do we unmute that? And I guess for archetypically speaking, stereotypically speaking, a lot of men have a problem with being more and more vulnerable for whatever reason, right? It's a reason of social expectation, previous trauma. We got to get it together to like, make ends meet. We can't afford to be that emotional right now. Otherwise, we just fall apart, whatever the reason. But
Yeah,
how
it's
do
like
we,
part of the cog that trying to like,
yeah,
keep yourself alive. It's just part of the cog. It's just enough to function. But then you can't like complain or think too much outside of that. You just gotta stay within your little corner of the cog.
yeah.
And then the machine's gonna pull you just perform a certain role that's most functional for the cog in like whatever context. So, but most of us are not aware of that.
Yep.
Yeah. And so many
Yeah, I did the
layers.
boot
So many
camp with
layers of
y'all.
yeah. So many layers too. But what was your question?
I was about to say I did the boot camp with y'all, and I was actually the one who DM you saying like that like was changing my life right there
Right.
because I was able to kind of like get out of like a little like depressive phase because I was like numbing out, but then throughout that whole week, like I was just becoming like more and more present each day, and I like
Right.
started like kind of get more of a grip. Like I felt like I started getting more grounded after that.
Yes, sir. Yep. I remember you. Yep. You go by Jeremiah on Instagram, right?
Yes, I go by Jeremiah. Daniel's just my legal name,
I
and
see. I see. Yeah.
Khan's just my CC name.
Placeholder name.
Yeah, it's my place over here.
Yeah. But like, okay. So you also said that throughout the 1 week public practice, you become more present, gain more intimacy. So that was 2 weeks ago. So how has it been keeping up for you?
I feel like it definitely declined if I'm being honest. Like that
Yeah.
first week, like I felt like I could feel that transmission. I was like, this feels like surreal. Like I didn't like know how to like think about it. Man, I started replaying the videos like throughout the next few weeks, and they still worked, but it felt like a little bit more like I guess like more back to the regular me, I guess.
Yeah.
But I still been able to like keep up with like the good habits and everything though.
Yeah. That's a part of our
That's why
momentum.
the network is so important. It's like
Yeah.
the whole network pulls, like all the nodes pull the network alone, and vice versa. It's like there's like orientation. That's collective in a sense, but you don't lose your individuality. You become more of an individual, like recognizing the connectivity of it all.
So what would you, Jeremiah, what would you say is so the aim right now is to be more embodied and stay with your experience?
Yes, like my main goal right now is just kind of be more present and like aware of like uh certain like patterns of the mind because I've been noticing a lot like my mind tends to like just loop and then like I'm just able to kind of like see it more and just like make different decisions. But like sometimes like for a little bit before like the boot camp, I stopped training for a few weeks and I just like couldn't get back into it. I just kept like messing up over and over again. And then once I was doing the meditation, staying more present, I was like, okay, why am I already predicting that I'm not going to train? Like, I should just like go train. And I noticed the more present I am, I'm able to see the thoughts more as just like thoughts versus like definitive truths.
Mm.
Yeah. One really quick shortcut is just to feel into the thought. Because when you say there's like a disconnect between like your thoughts and your emotion, your feelings, right? Like there's like a loop. Like
Yes.
the thought would tell the stories about the feeling and vice versa, and it creates this loop. One thing you can do is just to not have that divide. Just feel into the thoughts. There will be no divide between thinking and feeling. That's what I'm saying. Ultimately, to seeing the contact in thoughts.
Yeah,
That's
we could say that in order for us to function in modern context, a lot of us is just like like, and this is, I think, the accurate usage of the word low key. We're low key depressed.
Yeah, and the first step is just admit you're depressed. It's okay to like befriend your depression. That
It's
in
like
itself, it's already like,
it's a huge thing of being honest with ourselves, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That was some of the times in CC when we would point out. I think Frank, you were pointed out one time, like, Frank, you've been depressed right now, and then Frank was like, what? But then it was like, oh, because the stress is starting to get to the point that you start to mute things. You're starting to lose attentiveness.
Yeah, and also
Because
like
that's what happened when you stress, right?
yeah. But I also have the maneuver to like make everything okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can put the problems at bay or not look at it. Yeah.
And I was saying, like, the challenge of this here is that is low key and is subtle enough that it probably, if you're not really committed, it's not a problem enough for you to really change your way.
Yeah.
That's a challenge. And until it becomes the point of the depression hits to when you just completely numb and muted everything, then it's a little bit more challenging. And now you have to have, medical intervention and all that. Yeah, but that's sometimes the cost, right? It's like we can't afford to actually experience what we are experiencing because it's too much. It's overwhelming. We got the bills, we got all these things, and we got the past baggage, and we got future aspiration, and rolls on together, and we are one-man army trying to solve everything.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that. It just keeps on going, where it's like sometimes like I feel like almost like I'm having an insight, but then it's like the stresses of life that start kind of coming back, like, oh, I got paid this by this day, or I gotta do this by this, or like, oh, I haven't been doing this, I need to start doing that. And that's one thing in the boot camp that y'all are saying, like, question like, is it time to like really be thinking about like no self and everything when you still got like bills to pay and everything like that? So that was another question like I was kind of like thinking about is like, is there even like a right time to start, or do you just like, let's say someone was like let's say someone was homeless, like, is their goal like, so they even be like meditating like at all, or like with that person just like, hey bro, let's try not to be homeless, you know?
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's there is this thing called like the two accumulations. So what do we need to stack up in order to make this work? There's two things. There's merit and there's wisdom. So what we were just talking about in terms of whys and all that is to stack up the insight of, impermanence, anatta, no self,
But you need the
dukkha.
merit to hold it. You need
But you
the
need the
structure
merit.
of the merit to hold the insight. Otherwise, you can go insane.
The merit is literally our container of our life.
Yep.
What's interesting is a person can have a lot of money, but their merit is still not high enough for them to join because they're so busy to try to maintain the lifestyle. So it's just a case of like, if you have money, that's all solve everything. Because it could be the case that now you have money and now just completely take over your life. You can't think of anything else. And then become the next milestone for you to hit, for you to hit, for you to hit, for you to hit. So there is this aspect of what do we mean by somebody have a lot of merit? That could be the kind of abundance that, yes, financially speaking, you must be able to reach a certain point, like you're saying, not be homeless, be able to take care of your needs, be able to provide for yourself and your whoever is dependent upon you. That's one thing. But then have the abundance to be, have the time to entertain with this contemplative question. What is it about? Like, there's some fancy quote about some people are so broke, all they have is money. But at least that's a better type of broke than a broke that has nothing at all. You still have money, you still have like the niceties and the food, shelter, and all those things. And a lot of us need to do that, right? Which is my problem for the longest time was stacking all the points in the esoteric. And then I realized I don't know how to build a website. And then I was like, wait a minute, I need to know how to build a website. Because at that point, Frank, I was 18, Frank was reaching out like, hey, Con, can you build a website? And you help me out with these things? I'm like, yeah, sure. But then when I actually try to do it, I can't do it. It's like, oh, I have no marketable skills. I need to build skills. So then I'm starting to like, spend the next 6-7 years to
And
build skill.
that becomes your dharma when you practice it like that, with that
Yeah.
perspective. That's when the karma and the dharma, they just start become like merging and collapsing. Like every contraction, every problem, whatever you think is like disorienting or at any point of discomfort, if you can see it right there, it's entry to luminosity. Like not separate at all. Like every problem is a gateway to see luminosity or discomfort or contraction. Yeah.
But to answer it more specifically, like we were just saying a situation with Ryan, there is some case of joining the bootcamp so that we can fully take ownership of science to say, okay, I am the soul. What is it? I am the captain of my soul. I am the decider of my fate. That part. So then you got all this aspiration, this ambition to make things meet, and then we see the situation right now. Okay, I need to take care of these things. And I mean, if we talk money problems, I have money problems. I'm trying to figure out how to pay for the 4th semester in university. Is expensive, man. So I still have that. I still think about bills to pay. And if we be honest and transparent a little bit, both me and Frank are making below minimum wage running CC.
Real?
Yeah, it's like you actually do the math of like what are we charging and the ratio we are looking
work. Yeah.
in is below minimum wage. There are waiters that make more money than us running CC.
That answered my question. Appreciate that.
Yeah, but then what would be the point of the training at that moment? The training at that moment really is to stack up and stabilize merit with the orientation for wisdom. Because merit in and of itself becomes like then Buddha Dharma say is worldly concerns. Then we just stuck in fame, fortunes, and recognition and accolade about the people. That's all we care about then. Which is like, I mean, we all have a certain amount of accolades we want, right? I would venture to say that's a mammalian thing, like an animal wants companions. It's a very natural thing. We want to have recognition, we want validation to a certain degree. But if we can't go beyond that with the orientation to wisdom, then we just start chasing whatever, be it fame, fortune, accolades, whatever. But with the orientation to wisdom, now when we stack the merit, it's also take care of its invalidation, so that with every step, we become a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more liberated. But a lot of people on the journey towards liberation, they take a detour and then they never come back. I guess that's the risk. That's the risk of it all. Yeah. Okay, so I think concluding of that with Jeremiah is like the situation of, we all have situation right now where it's very challenging, it's very stressful on all sides. But one of the majority that I guess is asking of us here is like, being human means we have problems, right? And the fantasy of, reaching to a point of no more problems. Sure, we can do that, but that's most likely we are also going to be isolated in a very, very tightly controlled container. Maybe in that case, we won't have any problem. But when we're starting to actually relate and be with others, we then decided to actively take on problems to relate with others.
Yeah.
Like Frank was saying.
Yeah, you see problem as not as like my problem, your problem, as a way of relating.
Yeah.
Like two beings literally co-create that problem together in order to connect, in a sense.
So there are a lot of CC practitioners within our community right now. They are still having to think about this. It's like, okay, that's the limit of my compassion. It's like, I don't really want to make that problem, that person my problem, but these people, those my people. If they suffer, I suffer.
Yeah. It's a matter of fitness to love. Yeah. It's actually love becomes, like what I say, compassion and power are actually very dependent upon each other. You need a certain amount of fitness to be compassionate, actually.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah.
That's that. Like, yeah,
researching. Like that's what I'm talking about. Researching while orienting to the right view.
Yeah. Yeah. Many times, like we're saying that with people with a lot of compassion but lacking in skills, that's what we mean by bodhisattva having over emotional problem. Because you take on more than you can handle, and then you burn out. That's my problem. That's my pattern. Like I would like,
Yeah,
we gotta do.
I'm the opposite. I just like make a maneuver. There's no problem at all.
Like literally the other day, I called Frank. Frank, we're gonna do a 7-day live stream, 5 hours each. We're gonna go hard. And then the team was like, "Yo, calm down, calm down. Okay, calm down." That's my problem.
That's something I
my
struggle
tendency.
with.
Yeah.
I'll go on those cycles where I like do like the maximum, like everything possible, getting like 4 or 6 hours of sleep, and then I just start crashing after.
Yeah, that's my
But
pattern.
like,
Yeah.
Dude, I
yeah,
feel
that's
like
always been my
it's so
biggest
interesting.
pattern.
My pattern is like falling to the solo realization thing. Like after break, I have a tendency to like just fall back on the solo realization, but I'm like not caring.
Yeah, not engaging.
Yeah, not engaging. It's so easy to fall back. There's so much like bliss in there, actually. Yeah, not like a rapturous bliss, but more like I don't know how to describe that. Yeah, just like
It's tranquility. Yeah.
yeah, pretty tranquil most of the time. Yeah.
So
And
then
the next level of fitness to take that tranquility into the problems in life, into the stresses, to relate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fitness to be willingly accept that to be human is to be limited. To connect with other humans is to have problems. Relationship stir up problems.
Yeah.
People are difficult.
Yeah. So when Mention asked me when I said I didn't have problems, immediately the next thing I said was, but then that other person's problems, now it's actually it's my problem.
Yeah.
You see a lot clearly. It's like I don't have any problem, but then I suffer with that person, and then that problem just becomes shared. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So yeah, Jeremiah, whatever you do with that, it's your decision, right? It's like how much we want to unmute ourselves and really like come online in that way. And how do we?
There's definitely like a comfort in not like opening up sometimes. Like that and that stuff, it's like for me, I get very anxious to like connection sometimes.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Like I can almost like see like the pattern. Like sometimes I'm able to like open up like immediately, but sometimes I just like almost dissociate. I can like see myself in real time, kind of dissociate while like trying to connect.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think modernity has
But appreciate all that.
Yeah, I feel like the structure is relatable for everyone. I think because the structure of modernity almost encourages a kind of a solo realization bubble.
Yeah. You do your thing, I do my thing.
Spirituality, we just hide back into our own concavity, and that concavity can be the realization itself. Actually, if you don't continue to refine your views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
No concavity becomes its own concavity.
That's a really important point that Frank points out is that the way that the Western mind, which is the modern mind, which is the global mind right now, set things up is that you do your thing, I do my thing.
Yeah.
Which is good and optimized for solitude realization, but is not very well prepared for you to engage and connect and come together. So we see it at large, right? We're seeing with like nationalistic make a comeback, get away from our border, blah, 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 blah.
I'll say like that's a sign that the self-emptiness realization hasn't been mature enough to the point where you see self-emptiness and relationship as like inseparable. Like you see like self-emptiness, you don't see like bleak or like you just see relations. Yeah, and there's a certain gap there that as the self-emptiness insight mature, that gap becomes easier to like see how they dance with each other.
I think a lot of the rings, they have a really beautiful analogy about this, is that like, the Shire and on the hobbits, when they go on the journey of like to the mountain to destroy the ring, many times like they have fantasy about like, oh, what if we just stay isolated? Because Hobbit wants to hide, right? There's a Hobbit hole, and in there the Hobbit lived happily ever. But one of the vision that Frodo sees is that there is no the Shire left when Sauron wins. We can't go back. We must die even if we die, we must do it for the people back home. Because there's no isolation happiness. If you really see through what's actually going on, is that you can't stay like
Yeah,
that.
you can't. You feel almost kind of guilty staying in your own like cocoon of happiness. Yeah. Then there's a pull to do something about it.
Yeah. So there, but you know, like you do you, right? So on the other side, when people join CC, we also say that, hey, Mahayana, Bodhisattva, there is a propaganda for you to be like that. You don't have to be like that if you don't want to, by the way. You can be yourself and you don't care. That's fine.
Well, you can be a Mahasattva.
Yeah.
You self-invalidate the Bodhisattva self-invalidate Bodhisattvahood, it becomes a Mahasattva.
You can choose and have option to like, you know what? I don't like you guys. I would prefer to be alone. That's a valid option. That's a valid option. But you just know that you still rely on the world to, you know, provide you with the modern niceties and convenience and all that. So you can't really say that you're fully self-independent in that way. You're still connected, just that very, very little connection. Because like if there's a global famine, you're probably going to go hungry as well. But that's on a tangent.
Yeah. I feel like part of the training and the fitness is to like choose to be effective instead of like that this actually.
Yeah. So thanks, Jeremiah. Let's go to Leah. And then maybe we can go to Ask me after that. Or maybe John. I see some sharing as well. Yeah.
So I have a question. I haven't attended one of your programs. I was wondering, when one does the program after the fact, is there kind of meetings, something like this, like a community where we meet regularly, share how things develop, change over time or not? Because I'm in Serbia currently. I lived in US and Canada for a while, and I see a lot of happening here, but everyone is very disconnected. And I felt like I would like to start a community where we can just talk about it. Nobody has to be right. Everybody has their own experiences on their journey. And it feels wrong for me at this point to be somebody who is leading it, but somebody who is organizing it feels fine as long as we are all contributing. So yes, I had a question about, I guess, communities or groups or support groups, whether you guys have it after CC. And maybe a second question is what was your experience regarding those if I was to start one here in some shape or form, because I feel it's a really wide topic, and I'm not really sure how to start the group, because some people want to get in because of the emotional things, others are kind of like drawn in because of the physical things that are popping up, and they need to sort that out. The only thing that I want to share is that from my perspective, from my journey, what I've learned is that, like, even if I was to have a group where we focused on focus or like attention, like to think about focus and attention, to think about embodiment, and to report back the like apply it in everyday practical application in life, like how do we use this focus attention, how do we use this embodiment, and how do we apply it in life and bring it back. And also I was hoping on top of that to have actually a caring community, you know, not just like come in and out, but like really have a core group that if I grow, I bring back my growth to a community. Anyway, maybe that's too big of a question, but to begin with, maybe after CC, is there a group and or like a support group or a community? And then a second question is more of, if I was to start, is there any pointers, if this is even appropriate in this space to ask?
Right. Yeah, thank you for your question. That's a great point. So how I understand your situation right now, you mentioned that you've been around the block, you see different communities, you see different efforts in, you know, introducing this, practicing together. Some people focus on this, some people focus on that. But what you noticed is maybe similar to what some of the articles that I'm studying, they also point out there seems to be a lot of disconnect between these communities. Either within a community, people are still disconnected, or between communities together, there's a disconnect. So I think thank you for sharing that. I think, yeah, like I'm saying, I'm in the process of gathering more perspective like this, because this is more at the beginning as an intuitive hunch on my side. I think this is what's going on. So then I look into the literature, and then it's like, okay, it seems to be the case that this is what's going on. In terms of CC, so we're saying that it's the 90 days, the entire perspective is to stack a community support together. So what that means is we have buddy support, we have somebody who have finished the program, becoming interested in helping one another again. So they come back to do another program and support somebody who's new to it. And the aspect of facilitation is that when we start the boot camp, we find that, okay, why don't we just talk about our experience right after we meditate? Because a lot of communities, like just come in and, like sit for 1 hour and then just kind of bounce out, like kind of water cooler kind of chat, which is not very rigorous. So even when you train in attentive regulation, how to center your attention system, how to calm your nervous system, how to regulate your emotional pain body, let's discuss in details about that. So we build momentum to integrate, like you're saying. Because then we have the cadence of every day we train, and then we discuss, and then we integrate, and then we train. So that's anchor us on every day to move along and make it so that the momentum builds instead of it just dissipate. Like Jeremiah was just saying, it's very hard. Even we have some breakthrough in like 1 week, it will dissipate very quickly. The integration is like we kind of swoop the sand out of the sea, right? How do we even do that when we are just a tiny bit among this great collective? So in terms of the supporting structure, yes, of course, I would say first and foremost, the breakthrough comes a lot from the shared transmission that we train together, hosted by Mei Chang. And then comes a discussion.
I think the sitting is like a sync up.
Yeah. Every
Like a
sit is
session
like
of sync up, and you sync up, you go through life, and then in between you have a discussion, and it's like, okay, can we just see the signal all the time? But then that needs to be a period of integration happening in cycles. You can just see that right there in the sit, and then in the discussion, and then off real life. That's what one cycle per 24 hours, or maybe two.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So
then
yeah. When we say sync up, sometimes we mean like we sync up so much that people in the training start to.
If you don't want to sync up, you start to like create resistance, because the signal is and the luminosity is so powerful that you just kind of force to sync up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of like it's a
the whole ship is going, bro.
Yeah.
It's
like the wave, right? You want to resist the wave?
Mhm.
When everybody's taking care of their personal problem, and you're just like, nope, I don't have problem.
Mhm.
In that way, then you resist that, and then it manifests as
It's not leak out.
it leaks out. Yeah.
It leaks out. Yeah.
So I was just saying that it can sync up to the point that people in the community start to appear in your dreams. That's happened many times. Like, strange, but it happens. In terms of the support group, yeah, we have Discord communities, people ongoingly engaged there. We document training log. So if we see that, yeah, why don't we just write out, we own keep some sort of a diaries or some sort of a personal reflection. If we can share that, ideas would bounce with each other, and then we'll help each other out. And maybe we have Tyson here, Adam here, or Ryan here can also attest to, the training log and that kind of effect on our perspective. And sometimes that could be like realizing like, oh, interesting perspective.
Yeah, you learn a lot from reading other people's training logs.
Yeah.
Or even this morning, I was listening to the dissertation. That's like a really advanced training log for the mentors. And I was just like soaking in like all the transmission, and like I learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like Leah, like what you're saying, we own grow and we own have our interest in that way. So Tyson, he's also here. That's Tyson. So he was doing a 3 months training in this boot camp. While doing that, he also think about how do we bring like exertion, physical exertion onto the path. What is the relationship between Buddha Dharma, like orientation to wisdom, like we're saying, but through this physical vehicle? Because a lot of us is very kinetic. I'm not one of those, but Frank's one of those, and Adam's one of those, Tyson's one of those. They're very kinetic. They move. It's very easy for them to like see the nuance of that and starting to have all these kind of gears, and then they start to share. And so that's why I really appreciate working and training with Tyson because it's a massive weak point that I got covered by his massive strength point. Yeah. I think the usually, well, it's not to name out any names, but there is a pattern that we see when people come in to kind of like flex on each other. It doesn't land very well to the kind of atmosphere of collaborative because it's more about like, look at me and my experience instead of like, we all have problems here. We don't have to pretend that we're perfect in that way. And as a matter of fact, the longer you try to avoid feeling like that, you're not engaging, you're not learning, you're wasting your time. So why are you even here? In that way. And I gotta say, some of the training, some of the materials, and like the people that details the kind of suffering they went through, it blows my mind. There's some training that blows my mind in terms of, wow, I didn't even know like those situations, like that much suffering, and they're still here, they're still standing, they're still practicing. I mean, Adam's one case example is literally got like zapped in the brain through his military service, and it's a long walk out of a lot of dark nights to regain his like mental faculty, because it was like Adam, you can share more about this.
Yeah.
Long stretch of just brain fog caused by what's the electrocution thing that, yeah.
Yo, Adam, yeah, give us a elevator pitch on how all that leads to the creation of the Kodak coffee.
Yeah.
I see it's
Yeah,
no separation, but like there's like a journey that you took on to close that gap. Like
Yeah,
Kodak
long
coffee.
story short, in 2008, I was overseas deployed and was working with helicopters, and about 250,000 volts of static electricity discharged into my skull. And so that was '08. And my plan was to stay in the Marine Corps until I retired, which would have been last year. That's how old I am. But uh I ended up getting out early at about 8 and a half years, and it disrupted my whole system. I don't want to get into like nitty-gritty details, but I mean, everything you can imagine that can go wrong went wrong. I mean, I was really good at a lot of things, and I became really bad at everything. Um, my fitness was jacked because I couldn't sleep. My endocrine system, my gut, everything was. I mean, it's like it's static electricity. It shocks your system. But it catapulted me into spaces I would have probably never ended up in if it wasn't for that brain injury. Um, I found the idea, I was pretty ignorant to a lot of things growing up. Like I grew up pretty wealthy and then it was really poor through divorce. And so I was kind of sheltered, kind of growing up. And I was exposed to firearms training and martial arts very early in my life, about 12, 13 years old. And so I was exposed to kind of like the death and destruction of the world, in that way. But beyond that, I wasn't too aware of much. Anyone religious in my family or my circle, they were kind of just the thumpers type. So I wasn't intrigued by that. So it wasn't until after the brain injury in a number of years, about 4 years, so '08 to 2012, that I discovered the concept of spirituality. And
Yeah. Just wanted to highlight like people from NCC comes in various walks of life, very different, very, very different. We got like ex-Marine here. Tyson's come from a completely different background. A lot of people grow up in cults. A lot of people have to like climb their way out of cults. There's Frank. It's well documented. You guys know Frank. A lot of perspectives to come in to kind of like, okay, this seems to work across the board. We got people like Adam who experience that level of pain, that level of destabilization, like physically, that leads to prolonged injury, that leads to suicidal ideation. But so then the support structure, of course, there is the benefit of just talking it out and have a space that holds it. But the pedagogy, the way to train systematically through these obstacles to give a second life. Like one of the recent live stream we were doing, like being reborn again and again on the path. So that's why many times we say the version that was Frank 1 year ago is very different now. Very different. I think Tyson and Adam can also attest to that, or some of the audience members who follow Frank for a long time. We're starting to see guys changing again. Interesting. Very different.
Yeah, same with everybody that stayed in the boot camp for like at least one boot camp. You saw the second one started to see, oh wow, the progress is like exponential almost. Like it's a tipping point.
Yeah, because like, well, I mean, we have run Adam and Tyson here, team members now, but they were not team members then. It was joining like a participant, and they like
you guys. Yeah. Now I go to them for advice sometimes. That's why I said this morning I was listening to dissertation. I was like, felt like I was sitting in the class. I was really appreciative of like all the care and all the effort put into whatever you guys are doing. Yeah. Adam, when are you gonna do your dissertation? What is it gonna be on?
I have no idea.
If you could do a dissertation right now, what would you do it on? Like, would you do it on
Violence.
coffee? Violence.
Violence.
Interesting. Violence. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about like violence in CC too. Like Adrian did a dissertation about like awaken to the inner beast.
That's gonna be on Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not in a way where the beast controls you, but how do you create with the beast?
Yeah, because like
the perspective of the beast, or like, and it's not the beast, both and neither. Like the flexibility.
Because a lot of the problems that we identify in some of the spiritual circle is a complete emasculation of your aggression.
Mm.
So then you got a problem with people who are being passive aggressive.
He's got to leak somewhere.
Yeah, you got to leak somewhere. So, oh, lo and behold, they abuse behind the scene. Oh, what's a surprise? Well, you don't take care of the shadow, it's gonna swallow you, right? So then in that way, we have all these varieties. You know, people deal with like years of suicidal ideation, like going through very, very difficult stuff. But then somehow they're making on the other side and being sane enough to tell their insane stories. So that's the aspect of, like we were saying, like the community aspect of it. And it's hard to, it's hard at first to sell a community. I think sometimes it takes some sort of an acquired taste to like, okay, been around the block, kind of see the limitation of doing it by yourself. Being, I guess, open enough to be poked, because that's one of the challenge of joining a community, right? Like maybe I'll be poked and maybe something will get exposed, and not all of us are immediately ready for that, and that's understandable. Shout out to Adam, because one of the session was 40 people poking Adam. Like the entire 40 people. That was intense. Yeah, that was intense. Yeah. But yeah, there's this different degrees of joining the bootcamp. So we got one mode where people feel like, okay, they have collected enough merits and wisdom. Now is the time to like go on in and really see and have that kind of burning aspiration. So we call that challenge mode. Or we are in the process of stacking up momentum. We call that base mode. So like building the base, right? After this iteration, whether some people choose to do it again, some people choose to integrate, like Ryan was saying, or some people choose to take it easy to maintain connection through a support group, but much lighter in terms of the intensity, because it takes time for us to let the insight fully permeate into the way we walk, talk, relate, show up. We need recalibration. Sometimes it takes time. So there's a variety of how the bootcamp would end for many of us. And yeah, we'll be honest, right? We're not trying to get everybody. We know that the different communities serve different function. People are various various points in their journey. We're not going to be able to convince them, or like these things just like, what is even going on here? Like I was even seeing one comment on Frank's recent video. It's like, why do we need to pay you for coaching when I can just go to a free Wanka Vipassana retreat? Like, oh, okay, so did you just go? So why did you even ask that? I'm not trying to convince you. Like, if that's your mind, that's your mental landscape, then you just do you, man. Like, it's nonsensical to. It's a rhetorical question that people kind of expect an answer. people can be strange online, right? That's what I come to learn. Very strange. But to bring back to Leah's point of view, yeah, we have, I would say, really the community aspect is the first and foremost pillar of training in CC, because it's all about, building a relationship that either holds it accountable for consistent practice, if we at that stage of like, we still build momentum, or is it about like bringing the heat of interaction? Because sometimes, yeah, sure, we can by ourselves sit in meditation cushion, very easy to be absorbed and, regulate our emotion. But when you talk to somebody who may have a different perspective on life, now suddenly on the realization, bam, out of the window. But then with that heat, do we have enough respect and consideration for the other to build a relationship? Especially when we allow them to point out our blind spot. And when blind spot get pointed out, we, number one, literally can't see it. Number two, we refuse to believe it. So what? No, me? That? How come? So do we have that kind of trust with people online? Most likely not, right? Because like people don't know you. So when they point things out, then why would I need to follow you when you don't know me? You're trying to give me advice. That's like the limitation of a lot of like the old way of teaching. Because sometimes teacher would go on tour, right? Teacher would go on tour, or they have like kind of like you have 15 minutes to tell your case and meet them. I've done that. I've done that to Lama Lina, one of the very popular Dzogchen Mahamudra teachers online. But I have 5 minutes with her. It's like I have 5 minutes to ask one question once every month. Like I got some out of it, but I was like, damn, I wish I have more connection. But she can't have that. She have 500,000 or like five.
Yeah. Yeah, when I saw that question about the Vipassana, like my first initial reaction was direct feedback. That was the first thing that popped in my mind. It was direct feedback. That's the missing link. Yeah. Because if Vipassana retreat, like, yeah, you can sit with the instructor. I guess they are they even called instructors? So like they're just kind of trained to answer going kinds of questions.
Right.
If you tell them about your dark night, whatever, you tell them about cessation, whatever experience rupture, they won't look at it.
Yeah, that's happened to me.
Yeah. They'll just tell you scan your body, which is cool in that container to really master the body scanning skill. But if you don't know the context of body scanning, you're gonna keep just like the loop that we talked about for some. Sorry, now you're doing that with body scanning.
It's just
you don't-
pure in that way. They just train to do that job.
Yeah.
So when you go off course a little bit, well, they don't have the tools, right? Like what we were saying about the range, they don't have range.
Yeah. They can just some of them are like the only range is equanimity. Like maybe like a stoic thing, right? We talked about earlier. And that becomes like a virtue within actually becomes a shadow when you like a wave, like what's that for the cock part of
So
that.
much of it, much of it can be
Super
summarized in one sentence. We are not monks. They are monks. It's very different. We have relationships, romantic relationship, families. They have lived a different life with a very different context. But we try to do a monk's life in a non-monastic, everyday layman perspective. It's very different.
And then most of the dharmas out there that most people know of publicly are actually
Monastic dharma.
they're trying to apply to the modern world like that. That's like pure insanity, I think. Unless you have enough like aspiration and just like raw power to like just push through whatever obstacles in a way where like you get lucky, you don't kill yourself. It's like, pretty. It's a pretty tall task, actually.
I don't know if you guys like been what kind of people you have interacted with, but been around some of the groups, seen some of the communities, like there's just straight up deranged people on the spiritual path. They take no feedback. It's like I was seeing like a person just pop up every 3 months, like I've had the most profound awakening ever. It's very close to the finish. And then people say like, hey bro, you've been saying this for 7 times straight. I don't think it's working. And then do it again 3 months later.
Well, at least there's some kind of feedback there.
Yeah, but like that's the case that there is some sort of feedback, but the person
but
may
then
refuse to.
It's not real. Yeah. The feedback loop is what we're talking about here is like instantaneous. It becomes instantaneous. That's a signal, actually.
It's
So in between that, there's like obscurations, and you work through, but then boom, you see the sessions in stain is inseparable. Yeah.
I see Tyson unmute to speak something, but I just want to finish the point about like that deranged stuff, because a lot of this materials that we train and readily accessible right now, a lot of the more esoteric stuff, previously it was very well kept in a very, very highly guarded containers that you must do your due diligence before that opens. You can't skip steps, but people can skip steps now because there's modern access.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, it's like same with psychedelics too.
Yeah, psychedelic.
Yeah,
same way.
it's taking these teachings, especially if you start to like bench reality. It's a little bit like taking psychedelics when you're not maybe like unearned insight a little bit here and there, or
Yeah.
something like that. In that.
Would you say
Thank you
something,
so much.
Tyson?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So if that's the current kind of interest for you, Leah, we'll suggest that, there is on this cognitive support structure. One of the things is like we have 7 days left to this current cohort. So we're starting in January 19th. We'll go on the way to April 13th. And that's kind of like this last roundup of people maybe interested in this and the different support structure. Yeah. Would you say something, Tyson?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to a part of the effectiveness in the structure of CC, with the feedback loops and having people they like get to know you. It really it's really powerful. Like it's like even with the training logs of like you documenting and processing your what you're experiencing, and then you have your peers and then mentors and the instructors like also reading that. They kind of understand and see your development and trajectory. And then when you go to have like one-on-one conversations with any of them, there's like all of that context that they like have. It's not, it's not just like it's not just you trying to explain your situation in like one conversation. It's like they know how it's been going. And then there's all the discussion spaces after each sit, and it's like this accumulation of a relationship, like an understanding of where you're coming from. And so like I feel like the advice given, or it's not about giving advice, but it's just like the relating that happens is really, I think,
Yeah, it's through the process of relating that we see that uncovers our obscurations actually. But otherwise, our obscurations would you just like create this concavity to keep it at bay.
Yeah.
Once they start relating, then that doesn't get to hide as much.
Yeah. And like the rate of feedback too is really effective, because especially like when you as far as the integration goes, like if you have the momentum of retreat and you're dropped back into your life versus it's like an at-home retreat where you're like you absorb, you untangle, you kind of reform, reorient back into life. But the like in training, physical training, when you do like a big workout, you recover from the workout, and then if you don't train again, you just detrain. So if there's too big of a gap between a workout, it's like, yes, you get a stimulus, yes, you get stronger, but if that's not followed up by another session, it's just detraining. And so like I think a part of the effectiveness too is the rate at which you get feedback and you kind of build, and that's just momentum and training.
Momentum, yeah.
Yeah, it almost expediently almost feels like the rate of the piling of the obscuration there needs to be enough speed velocity to break through the speed of the samsara piling.
Gotta be faster.
Yeah, faster. Yeah. But then you ultimately see that there's actually like just the speed of light is like almost constant. It's like eternal. But it's also everything's also moving at the same time. Yeah. Yeah. But then that speed, even that catching collapses.
Yeah.
That's when the delay, right, between karma and dharma. At first, it takes like almost like a gap to turn a karma into a dharma, because there's obscuration in the way that delays that. Then once you work through more and more and more, it's like, oh, even that delay is expediently created. They talk about like the nirvana samsara, like sense of yeah, the sense of inseparability between those two.
Okay, I think maybe we still have time to go into one for day one last case, either by John or Asti. I haven't read what John wrote yet, but let me take a look. Maybe I see Asti videos is on. Maybe we can talk with Asti, and let me copy the things that John wrote down so we can follow up with that later. Also, I know, John, you are you have Frederick to introduce you to this. So Frederick will also be joining on Tuesday to be looking into his situation. So that's something that we can also stack up on that. So, okay, got it. Okay, so ask the question is how to accumulate merit in today's world. Is merit related to giving and sharing? Can you maybe share with us a little bit more of your context regarding this question, Asti?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so basically why did I ask this question is because when I was young, I've been using like high doses of LSD, and I feel like I've been given some like experience in advanced experience of reality, stuff like that. And as you said, I felt like I was injured in some case. And yeah, so now I'm doing a swim meditation, and I'm just having a question like in my mind, like is the love I'm feeling, is the purity of my intention similar to merit or like training merit, or is it something completely different?
Okay, so there's a
Can
few
like
things. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to point out one thing really quick. It's like merit is also shapeshifting all the time. Like the merit doesn't just look like one thing. Yeah, even like virtue. We have a preconceived idea of what virtue is.
I guess there's a lot of to dissect in your case, but maybe we can have a workable contextual for this moment. What do we mean by merit? I think we can kind of think of it as a kind of wealth that allows for realization. Like a merit is not just like merit could be your talent, merit could be your intellect.
There's yeah, even when I say like it's constantly shapeshifting, there's a kind of a maneuver for a certain kind of merit to manifest in a way where there's consistency. So that yeah, so that I would say consistency also and commitment also goes in line with the fact that it's always changing.
Because,
Yeah.
Because I guess like one of the way that usually we look at merit is it can associate with or it can correlate
Discipline kind of a little bit.
with like it's precisely discipline with the conversation about prajna paramitas or the cultivation of virtues. Is like we got these like pillars of qualities that if you stack them throughout your daily lives, it will allow for greater and greater chance to be conducive for realization. So what is that? That is generosity, dana, the openness to be receptive, to be give, to share, to whatever moments, right? That could be like the generosity of your time, your attention, your effort. Oh, I don't have time right now. Oh, sorry, I'm busy. Are you really that busy? Like those kind of things, right? Or like, oh, stingy, being stingy about now my realization, oh, this thing. So like this generosity, it's openness to have enough generosity that you can just like, this experience, not that much. I'll have another one. That's fine. Because a lot of time, our obsession with heightened outer state is a type of stinginess. Kind of Gollum, kind of like, oh, special experience.
Yeah, even when you like have this tendency to want other people to experience like realization, there's a certain sense of like stinginess in there. It's like, why do they have to experience this? But then you kind of see through that as well. Right?
Yeah. So the openness to allow all the moments to be welcome, right? To be generous with our receptivity towards all moments of life. be it mundane, be it absorbed, be it highs or lows, be it absorbed, be it distracted, or very, very calm and collected. So this is the base.
That's what exertion is. When Tyson talk about virtue and exertion,
Yeah.
virtue and exertion, that's what it is.
Yeah. So we're building these bases of condition for merit to arise, like as a compounding, like I said, with interest, it compound like that. So we start with generosity, and then we go into ethics. It go into, if you're open to all that is going on, then do you have the, just bounce out. Okay, we continue. So then the second one is ethics, but in the way of Sila is like the boundaries, or with each moment, do you have the discernment to be able to know what is conceptual, what is contextually right or wrong for you?
Yeah.
Right. So the attentiveness, right? It's like we open, but it's not like, oh, whatever goes. No, that's kind of confused. Yeah. But it's like having this kind of like attentiveness, paying attention to details. So like, okay, right now it's very mundane. What do I want? What's going, like, if you're relating with somebody and they kind of, at first you are open to receive them, but they constantly suck your energy, your time, and your attention like a parasite. You raise some boundaries. That's the attentiveness, that's the ethics part that we're starting to build, so that we have a structure that's now be able to do so. And then we have the patience or the endurance to be able to make that structure last. So we are open, but that doesn't negate the structure of attentiveness or ethics. And once we have that structure, we work to the point that it has the patience to make that last. And once that structure is installed, now then is the point that Tyson was talking about, is the fourth virtue is diligence or exertion, your ability to not just endure, but also enjoy. Your ability to also be diligently enjoying your practice, be able to be enthusiastic. That's why we're saying that the absence of enthusiasm, the loss of heart, is a type of laziness.
Or like even like self-contempt.
Yeah, like, oh, there's not more
laziness. Yeah,
laziness. But then we're not practicing because we're forced to practice. We want to practice. So that's the kind of like, we see like that person, that means that, oh, they're just constantly enjoying the path, constantly fighting enthusiasm. Lama Lina also like having this great one-liner. I mean, it works for a lot of cases. A lot of students ask me like, what technique? There's so many techniques. What technique should I do? Whatever.
What fastest way to enlightenment, realization?
She say like, whatever makes you the most enthusiastic. Like, so she's talking about diligence, right? Because like that's a very skillful response, because a lot of time when people ask that question is that they want to skip over steps. So then her response is build diligence, so that you don't think about skipping over steps.
Yeah, and then you start to find the interest in the diligence.
Yeah. So then you just go, right? You just enjoy it. So then this diligence become not just meditation, it's also become our work. It's also become like attentiveness of like, okay, I have money problems. Can I accept and be generous to the fact that I have money problems? If I have money problems, I have to solve it. So then structurally speaking, attentively speaking, what's going to move the needles? So okay, I need to do that. So then if you know that's the path, then do we have the patience or the endurance to put that into motion? So when we do that, can we enjoy that process? So that's the first 4 parameters. And then on these, and of course, it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, it's cyclical in that way as well. And then it moves into the 5th one, which is samadhi. Now, with all these, we hold the stable mind. And most people try to build samadhi without building those 4. Of course, we're going to fall apart. Once samadhi is hit, then the 6th parameter in that way is prajna, wisdom. Because like you're open to your own experience, you decide for yourself what's right, what's wrong. Then you make that decision last, you see things through, and then you enjoy the entire process. So of course you're going to naturally enter samadhi. And once you enter samadhi, you just see through things. So that's the merit-making cycles of it. And this is the thing that we're saying, like, it's again and again and again reinforce itself throughout bootcamp training cycles, whatever's going on with you, and blah, 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 blah. So sure, one part of it is giving and sharing, but that's the bigger picture is prajna paramita, the cultivation of virtue, so that we orient towards realization with whatever is going on.
Yeah, that's one of the other shortcomings of a lot of I think online Dharma or apps, is that they all focus on insight only.
Yeah.
It's like it's obsessive with like
ridiculous.
into this insight, and then there's absolutely no structure around it.
Yeah.
Of course, it can get a bit destabilized without this the supporting structure of like community and merits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like reframe a little bit of SD's question? That's kind of okay. That's laying out what I mean by merit. But now coming to SD, SD, just your comment about, well, there's one aspect of sustained maybe injuries from high dose of psychedelics. That could be one. And then you also said about love, something about love. Can you clarify for us a little bit about what you mean by that?
Yeah, maybe like love as a capacity to be open to insights or something like that.
Love has the capacity to be open for insight.
Does it help?
Yeah, I'll say directionally that seems to align with what we're talking about, right? Like the generosity, a lot of these things. But I reckon in the article say, what is wisdom? They criticize the problem with Western mind when they think about insight, when they think about wisdom, is that it's the framework is too vague. It's like the framework for realization is not well developed enough. So then, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Asti, about, for example, that means, for example, when we say love is to open for insight, but then how do we sit with evil? How do we sit with violence? How do we sit with the necessity of being cruel when others is infringing upon your domain? How do you protect yourself? What does it mean to love somebody who's robbing your house at 2 a.m.? What does love show up like? Probably it's like a gun pointing at them. That's what love looks like at that moment, right? But then it's kind of hard because we think about love as more of like, certain image of what it looks like.
That's what I was talking about earlier about the virtue thing. Yeah.
Love can look like cutting own ties from our family for 6 months. Yeah. Because they are full of shit.
Yeah, that's why like part of what I was working on is like instantiating the capacity to let other people feel what they need to feel instead of just immediately wanting to make them feel good. Like, oh, just you don't want to feel this pain. Let's.
Yeah.
But
That's very difficult.
Compassion, yeah, very difficult for you to need to tell your loved ones what they need to hear sometimes. Yeah, it really hurts them, but then it's good for their growth. Like, there's a skillfulness in maneuvering how to deliver that way of relating. I almost want to say pointers, but I'm not even thinking about that. It's just the your way of relating becomes its own pointer. Not saying you can't like go like non-dual on them sometimes here and there, but that can be your only maneuver. So explain everything with the ultimate.
Yeah, and then like we were saying about that's love, there's many variation of that. There's many range of how it can show up. So does insight as well, right? There's many types of insight. There's, like we're saying, personal insight, like insight about you and insight about another person. There could be also like intuitive insight where you don't even need to think, you can just move. But there's also like very precise scientific insight where you need to know your stuff very well. But then we can see that, okay, there's also this kind of love for the game so that whatever that we do, our craft, for example, Frank and his video editing process, like he has a lot of love for that. So he knows like very precise, like what music to choose, blah, 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 like all these things. And before I become intuitive, it must be conceptual. It must be a scaffolding to build it up. But if we only feel like the love that we have is must be that type of effortless, then we just skip over, we just bypass. Like the process of me building that literature review was full of pain. Like, oh, I gotta read this, and like, oh, I'm gonna look into that. I'm like, oh. But it's like once it's done, then I'm like, okay, it become intuitive. I see the picture and I can communicate back with much less pain. But when the process was like in the last 3 months of leading to that point of writing that was so much pain. I was just like, I have to like, because there isn't this pride that practitioner like experience realize, we have experienced realization. There could be this pride like, no more to learn. Next, like academia, what do they know about these things? Like we're on the real lineage. We got like blessing and transmission from Tibetan Buddhism, blah, 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 blah. Then I got to go beyond that to rest that. I'm like, okay, stinky Zen, whatever.
Yeah, I think Jeffrey Martin had a research that says like realized beings actually sometimes defend their view, at least the view around the realization. Not saying their realization isn't legit, but there's if unchecked, there's a certain kind of meaning making around the realization that you would actually, from another perspective, it's actually very homogenous in a sense. It's like you. Does that make sense? It's like kind of one dimensional. Yeah, because the realization is so absolute. Whatever you wrap around it, like you flatten it. Like if you,
then could be a situation where it's like defending my path, my version of it, my manifestation, how it looks like for me, and then we unknowingly trying to impress and influence other people to be more like us, and then we have
that's the echo, and then followed by the echo chamber. And now
right back to echo chamber.
So I get a lot of communities, but no interpenetration between communities.
Yeah. And then they collapse after a while because to defend that requires exertion, right?
It's like a solo realization bubble, but in the collective, in a bigger container, but it's the same. It's a fractal within the whole. The part is within the whole is within the part. It's so interesting how that manifests, and that reflects like, I guess, modernity as a whole. Right?
Yeah.
But we're not trying to get rid of separation. We're trying to find the unity that includes both separation and non-separation. Because if you hang on to non-separation and that make that into the ultimate, then you make emptiness into a thing again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it's hard for the product of modernity not to make anything out of a thing, because this is pretty much what got us here. This process of reification.
We have to solve the problem as the problem, right?
Yeah, compounding. Literally, your incarnation is a sort of a compounding. So the momentum is so strong, the compounding, the patterns of it. At first, you start to see the patterns, and then you can kind of aggregate, mandate. Yeah. It's the compounding, like that. How you compound, like how you aggregate compound. It almost becomes like a art of your life, where you kind of the geometry of you, like just the moment right now. It's like a VR 3D sculpture. Yeah, but going back to the relating, the only way to master that is by seeing other people's geometries too, and the codependent rising between all different geometries.
Yeah.
And the team will come together, create a collective geometry sculpture together, and then you go off and
yeah, we can do our own thing together.
Yeah. That's
the challenge. Yeah. So what are you working on right now, Asti?
Basically making money.
Making money, yeah.
Yeah,
I can relate
because
with that.
I think we'll do.
Yeah. Hey, we're here all. I think a lot of us is trying to stop being Dharma bum.
Yeah, I was talking to Mei Chen, and he was like pointing to the fact that when you actually not taking emptiness for granted, like you self-invalidate even emptiness, not hanging on to even emptiness and ultimate ground, like what you see as realization is just problems. But then that problem becomes a beautiful thing for you to like navigate with through it as Then it's like, oh, you want to see a completion? The wall. So, how are you going to describe a completion? The wall. I find that to be a profound pointer. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, because sometimes we can see the wall. I mean, there's a different perspective looking at it, right? There could be this perspective of like we're seeing our mental labels stuck on that, and like we're seeing a kind of like a causal reality where this is the wall, and I'm here looking at the wall, and we can see like subject here, object over there, but we can also see interdependence of like, oh, for this to be a wall, there must be a building, apartment, rooms, other people, the land,
Yeah.
and then but wait a minute, there's also flowing through time. So there's also see like, how did the wall come here? Where's it before?
Yeah.
What constitute the wall? And like on that.
Yeah, that's what I say when I say you just see the wall. It's another way of saying it is you see everything else, and that's not the wall that makes up the wall.
Yeah.
I think you see all that simultaneously. Yeah. And then you also just see a wall because like most of us don't even see a wall, which is
And
the
then
concept of the wall.
and then like I guess like closing that like causal loop of like, oh my God, this is profound. But wait a minute, I have money problems.
Yeah, that becomes your dharma right there. That's
And just like, oh, all this profanity, but I still need to live a human life. That means I still need to make money. Or otherwise, I have to choose option that doesn't involve money, which is monastic, but I don't want that.
that gap right there. You see that gap between like spirituality life and the
Yeah,
mundane life that even if you think you're close to this different pockets of life, you say, oh, I haven't completely close to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the nirvana and samsara again. Yeah.
One of the very profound sit I have back when we started doing bootcamp was more than a year ago. I was sitting and like only absorption, like white light starting to dawn, and I'm starting to see visions, and the central energy is like whoop, 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 and it's like more and more intense, more and more intense, whoop, 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 starting to reach all that point, and I was like, oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Like, okay, relax, release, relax, 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 rest, 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 and it's, and like riding on the way, so like, oh, business plan, like, oh, this is how we're gonna market CC, and then at first while seeing that, and I was like, I got a little bit confused, but then I see that, oh, the gap was I see this as separate from spirituality.
Before like first thing I do wake up and I do like guided meditation. That was like my fix before. But now like there's no inclination to do that. But I realized like, oh, I gotta do a meditation today. This is with you guys right now. Yeah. Like literally like in this moment. Yeah. That becomes the sit. Like you have the guided meditation I did for years in the morning. But now it's just then later it's gonna be me I'm gonna cook some food and that's gonna be that.
And we're all trying to meet modernity in on the various difficulties of it, right? Modern people with modern psychology, with modern challenge, modern way of making a living, modern livelihood. Very difficult, very challenged, but also
I think rewarding too.
Very inspiring as well, very beautiful.
Yeah.
Very complicated. Yeah. Yeah, so it could be very practical. It's like at a certain point, it's not just about, how absorbed we sit or what kind of profound experience we have had, or what even like what those experience means in terms of the insight. Not even about like how we're seeing the integration, but it's so thorough that it just like, yes, own that. And right now I have money problems, and that's really the prime focus.
Yep.
So then it's no longer kind of pedestalizing only spiritual insight into some sort of a safe haven, and to trying to convince ourselves that this is like once I do this, everything will taken care of. No, we still have to think about money problems and money solutions. And actually the fitness to be able to sit with that while being absorbed. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why when I said in my video, like partying in hell is like heaven, that's what I'm talking about. I can sit through all kinds of what you previously think would like cause a disturbance or chaos, whatever like is you can just sit with through it as it, and with the ability to recognize exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And the fitness to sit with and as whatever is arising, not just feeling good, not just equanimity, not just peace, or not clinging on to the positive blissful experiences, the ruptures, and not like suppressing or dissociating from the negatives. The whole spectrum of that. That's why it's yogic. It's literally kind of like what you just mentioned earlier, Con, about you said kinetic.
Yeah, kinetic.
The entire like mind field, which is inseparable from reality. It's like very kinetic. It's like before you think you have like muscles just flexing mind to muscle connection, but it's like cosmic to cosmic kind of like flexing, contracting, expanding, like very kinetic. Yeah. But it takes a certain kind of skill and fitness and finesse to even taking the infinitude of the emptiness realization into the particulars.
Mm.
Yeah, into the most subtle points of life. That's, to me, is harder than just being infinity.
I guess in some case that I think Frank, you talked about before about certain aspect. Once we integrate it so thoroughly, it disappears, right?
Yeah, it disappears. Yeah. Even infinite cannot be the divine and mundane. It's just crazy to think about how you used to make that, create that distinction there. We're not saying like there's no distinction, right? Because when you holding on to, when you said nothing has a distinction, you're already making a distinction.
From the point of separation, from the point of the unrealized mind, there is a difference. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
There is like how open we are, the cultivation of merit and the cultivation of wisdom is very real. Like once we accumulate, we see the gains, we see like, okay, it makes a big difference in terms of how it is that I am holding a phenomenon, big difference. But once it's so integrated, it's kind of like, what are the shore? It's just like its own gold. But there is some gold that is highly problematic. Which is like, it's so, that's why when we were finishing cohort 7, in week 12, we asked people to, capture and reflect for yourself, how have you changed? And I sent people, a video of them maybe 6 months ago or 1 year ago, something like that. And one member say something like, it's so crazy that so much has changed, but to the people around me, they don't see anything different.
That's the sign of an invisible monastery. Right there. So you're carrying out this monastery with you, but even you can't see it.
But like for that practitioner right now, it's up to him to decide whether he wants that solitary peace or he actually want to start to lead people around him to start to change stuff. Because it's not just about peace anymore. It's about taking leadership position. Not even like having to be a manager or something like that, but just like, okay, this is what our life is about now. Our wife, our children, our family structure, this is what we're about. But to lead that means that you have to be the source of meaning for others, and that's very stressful. When you're just a meaning for yourself, it's very, the load is much lighter. You just need to work your own obscuration. But now you work your obscuration of your wife, you work the obscuration of your parents, you work your obscuration of the environment that your children will grow up in. And that's a different fitness. That requires you to care and protect and monitor and track and iterate.
And you start to see that process like atemporally, like across space and time. Yeah. That's when you start to like, I guess, really know the importance of like observing your karmic trajectory, like your orientation.
Then your life takes on like, maybe we can go more about this tomorrow. I know we're running out of time here, but then we can talk about things like, oh, the meaning of life is not that you don't have meaning of life, it's that you don't have the fitness to constantly generate,
to create
the meaning of life for you.
Yeah.
Like, what's the meaning of life? You decide. But I can't.
Yeah.
There must be a God somewhere to tell me the meaning of life.
I think before you like you there's a container of the meaning of life, and then your creativity stems from that, and in a way it kind of creates its own loop. Yeah. But when you when you have to like instantiate meaning, like the entire ontological structure needs to like, you need to, that's what you're creating. Instead of just like a part within a preconceived structure that you take for granted. Now you actually have to have enough like capacity and power to like create the ontological meaning.
Yeah.
You do that constantly iterating.
You have to do two spectrums, right? It's
just simultaneously.
if we boil it down, there's one spectrum, that is the ontological spectrum, like we're saying, the ontological addiction of like the constant belief that there is a self that we have to undo. But there is also the teleological question, which is, what does it mean? What does it mean to be me? And then it's both fighting, but also creating. Okay, I have these characters, I have these interests, I have these preferences. That's my background. Those are my parents. Those are my childhood experience. Ever since I was a kid, I've been legit in this and this and this way. And then you find out, but what does it all mean though? Right? There's still that question, right? Even so-called like your ontology, your being, your structure is so-called cleared away. Like it's just clear that you know that there's never has been a self, never will be a self that can independently exist. You know that in the deepest of your bones, like it transforms everything. There's still the question of meaning. There's still the question of what reality are we deciding now? What does it mean now? Right. There's still a question of figuring it out. Like, so what did you live for? The big question, right? So so then it's not like, oh, it's not like life has no meaning in an inherent way of then become nihilistic. Like we're saying, nihilistic is the type of laziness that doesn't even want to develop the fitness to be able to have meaning.
Yeah, there are actually people who are hanging on to like nihilism still have a view there about nihilism itself. That's creating a meaning of you thinking that there's no meaning. And some of those views, like those beliefs, get trickled down from a view that you can't even see because your view is literally your entire reality. Yeah. But then if that relationship between meaning and just the ultimate, I guess, the nature phenomenon, seeing everything as self-empty and meaning, how those two relate with each other is also pretty trippy. Because you can get like trapped into meaning, or you can get trapped into no meaning, and then like unconsciously create a meaning out of that. But then once you have started to see that, you can start to create your own meaning.
Yes, sir.
Which means creating pretty much your entire reality. Yeah.
Yeah, which pretty much what you
when meaning and just phenomenon becomes inseparable, it's like the meaning becomes manifested like physical reality.
You're asked to play the role of the creator of meaning, the created creature, and the creation process itself.
Yeah.
Your pure creativity in that way. Not some vague stuff, but like, can you have an interest? Like, I want that to happen, and then make that happen.
The other side of that could be perceived as fear of emptiness. There's so much like power and freedom in there. This actually can be frightening. Yeah. The fear of emptiness is the same as that what everybody wants. Ultimate freedom.
Yeah.
You have to even self-invalidate what you think freedom is, or truth, or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Without making the process of invalidation into a thing. Yeah.
So I think, okay, so this is day one of the live stream 7 days process. Like we're saying that, I think we like I've been told sometimes that I have a very depressing presentation style sometimes. So we're kind of starting with like, okay, it's like we're at war, we're on fuck, it's all shit, everybody's gonna die, wake up. We got that flavor kind of established. I think tomorrow is gonna be very lively. You know, Frank's gonna take the reign. We see the artistry, the creativity. We say creativity, concentration, and madness. So when people say
you're gonna ask the questions, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask questions.
All right.
We're gonna start with watching Frank's new videos, and then we have a chance to kind of take a look into Frank's creative process, and also to see how Frank has changed and transformed, and his observation. Because Frank holds a very special position, is that he's been through the block and interact with many other teacher communicators and also practitioners from all walks of life that's come to Frank to kind of tell him their problem, their perspectives. So we see that from his perspective, what's going on. And then we further have, today we talk with Leah, we talk with Jeremiah, we talk with Asti, but we have more spaces that we can share and connect tomorrow as well. So for the people that also watch this on YouTube, you guys can also sign up and come with us tomorrow for talking with Frank, and we take it one day at a time. So today also the countdown, first day of the 7-day process, but it's also, there's 7 days left. If you feel like this is what you're about, you want to join us on the next adventure, 3 months of this could be intense, right? So, and this is just us. Like, it's not even like Mei Chang sometimes and just like, whoa, holy, what's going on? So there's that aspect as well. So if it's kind of like your cup of tea or your Kool-Aid of choice, then let's come and drink with us. Because everybody got to be in some sort of cult, right? We got to borrow the belief in some structure. We're not our own creator yet. So you are in a type of a cult. It's just, are you aware of what the cult is about?
Yeah. There's nothing in modernity that isn't a cult, to be honest. Yeah. But it's not like there's anything against cults, but then you just create a cult that's an anti-cult. Or they thinking that I'm not a cult, everyone else is a cult.
Yeah. With the cult of Gucci, with the cult of Ferrari, with the cult of CCP, whatever, right? CCCP, yeah. Communist cult, all the sort of cult. But okay.
Cult of the self.
The cult of the
No,
self.
cult of the separation. That's the core of it.
The cult of separation.
I think it's almost like nature needed that code to like proliferate, to recognize itself through that process of separation.
But through this process of separation, the stake is high because you can be lost for real. So the people say like, oh, I'm already there. Okay. You are wherever you are. So just be you, right? Like, I'm already there. What are you trying to prove?
Yeah, where's there? Like where there's a reference point there too, right?
Yeah.
In relation to like here.
Yeah. But okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys spending 3 hours with us. It's just starting. Hopefully to stack up some gains, still the momentum of the new year. Red Horse, Vitality, let's get it.